customer service rep, Christine Hurst, is suing her ex-boyfriend, security guard Clinton Burton Jr., for assaulting her and destroying her cell phone. Clinton says Christine is a con artist.
Order. Yeah, this is case number 319 on the calendar, the matter of Hurst versus Burton.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Hurst, according to what I've read in your complaint, you and the defendant met a little over a year ago through a dating service.
Yes.
And you started to date, and then the relationship cooled off a bit. Recently, during this past summer, you decided to rejuvenate the relationship, and you contacted the defendant and began a series of telephone communications that ultimately led to some casual dating.
Yes.
So far, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then there was an evening in July, September? When was it?
September 13th.
That something happened that you're going to tell me about, because it is your claim that he assaulted you and broke a piece of your property at an evening that was supposed to be a pleasant evening at his home. Mr. Burton said he did no such thing. So why don't you tell me how the evening started?
September 13th, he was calling me. He was telling me he called out throughout the day, saying, "Why don't you come on over, come on over?" And I was hesitant. I said, okay. I waited later in the day, and then I told him, I said, you know what, okay, I'll come.
How many times had you called her that day, sir?
Your Honor, I only called her like one time, and she called me. I didn't call her.
Okay, so you called him back and said what?
About the fourth or fifth time he called, I finally said, okay, I'm going to go get some movies. I'm going to go get some, house wine. And then we had a nice dinner that day.
What time did you get there?
I would say about 5:30.
And you drank wine?
We both drank some wine, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And then just out of nowhere, at the end of the dinner, he came out with some kind of game playing, saying, well, I did this and I did this through the relationship.
I did this. What did he say?
He put up all the financial, as far as dating, when a man is going to go ahead and take you out to eat and stuff, they go ahead and, they pay for the eating and all. So he was bringing all that up. And then when I started getting ready to say, well, I did this and I did that, he started covering my mouth, but in a joking manner, playing manner. And then it turned out to where he wanted to get some wine. Well, he didn't have any money, so he was gathering some receipts and the purchase that he had purchased a while back, whatever it was. And then he was asking for my bus pass. So then at that time, I told him no. I said, I don't want to, I'm not, you don't trust me. You don't trust me. That's what he's coming out saying. And I'm like, okay. I'm hoping that the conversation will end. Just out of nowhere, he comes out and he says, you got to go.
Okay, so what happened?
I left. I tried to pack up everything. He got mad when I was trying to get everything gathered up. I wasn't saying anything to him. I did say, do you have the rest of the money that you owe me so I can take the cab home? And then sure enough, he got madder and started pushing me, shoving me with his chest at me. And then as I was gathering everything, that's when he pushed me against the wall, and the wall cracked behind me in the dining room, yes. And then I stepped back after I got pushed, and I waited for him. He just kept calling B word to me with a disgusting look, scary look, I might add, and just kept saying it. Yes, I was really frightened, and I just stepped out, and I'm against the wall, and that's when he pushed me again, trying to take my cell phone. The second time, he got it, and then he threw it as I was trying to call the police.
What'd you call the police for?
Because of the abuse that he was doing. He was pushing me and hurting me. He didn't have no right to put his hands on me at all.
Okay, and I'm waiting for you. Let's hear.
First of all, Your Honor, everything she just said, she's lying.
Just tell me your version of the events, Mr. Burton.
Your Honor, she called me on a Saturday. She said she was preparing a roast and a dinner. And I said, why don't you bring everything over to my house, and then I'll finish preparing it, and then, we can have dinner over my house. So she came over my house, and I finished preparing the meal, and then she asked me to pour her a glass of wine. I poured her a glass of wine. Then all of a sudden, she started acting funny because I think she takes sight meds or something, because you can't drink on sight meds. But anyway, Your Honor, she just started talking, ramming on top of her head, just started acting crazy.
Like what?
I mean, started talking. She didn't make no sense whatsoever. Like, you a punk, you this, you ain't a man, you this and you that. And she kept talking loud. It was 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I told her, stop talking loud in my house because you disturbing my neighbors. And she kept talking loud. And then I walked over to her and put my hand over her mouth. This is the physical abuse she was saying. So I said, maybe if I just walk away from her, maybe she'll stop. And so I went into the restroom, Your Honor, you know, and I went in the restroom and used the restroom and washed my hand. I heard a scream. And so I came back out, and Your Honor, she told me, I said, what are you screaming for? She told me she had saw a leprechaun run through the living room. I went over there, I said, you got to go. So she went over there and got her stuff, and she kept saying, hit me, hit me. She was doing that, hit me, hit me, hit me. You know, hit me, hit me, hit me. I didn't know what was going on, Your Honor. I thought she was finna turn into a chicken or something. Then she started yelling rape. And I ran to my bedroom and got my shoes. I said, you got to go. You got to get out of my house. And she started yelling rape outside, so I grabbed the cell phone and I threw it in the bushes. Because, you know, I'm not finna get set up for something I didn't do.
And you say in your answer, sir, that you called her on the cell phone the next day.
Okay, I had got her out of my house. She called me about 5 minutes later from a payphone. She said, Clint, she said, I can't find my cell phone. I need a way home. Could you please help me get a way home and help me find my cell phone? Your Honor, I watch cops. You know, I know there's no way that she was going to get me outside. I know the cops was already outside. So what I did, I cut off all my lights and everything and went to bed. When I went to bed, next thing you know, the cops was outside my window, bright light, and banging on the door. The next day,
So you didn't answer the door?
Huh? No, I never answered the door because she wasn't finna set me up for something I didn't do. So, Your Honor, the next day I put star 67. That's blocking the number out, and called her cell phone, and she answered the cell phone. So that let me know that she found the cell phone. Not only this, Your Honor, this young lady is on at least three or four chat lines and the internet. This lady is looking for victims on the chat lines and the internet to sue.
Gosh.
She done told me about at least 3 lawsuits she done had.
Okay. Now, Ms. Hurst, you called the police?
I did call the police after
Did you
trying.
file a report?
Yes, I did.
Can I see a copy of the report?
It's all the lies she done told.
Did I let you speak? Was I polite to you?
Yes, you were.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't understand. How can I make a call her on that cell phone if it's in pieces like that?
Do I look like a telephone technician to you?
And later today,
I guarantee you that when you're working from 10 to 6, he's fooling around. Guaranteed! And just like he made a fool out of her, he's gonna make a fool out of you.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Christine Hurst says ex-boyfriend Clinton Burton Jr. assaulted her and destroyed her cell phone. Clinton says Christine is a con artist.
Miss Hurst, police note the presence of alcohol when they saw you.
I let them know that we were drinking 2 to 3 glasses of house wine that I had brought over to his house.
It's about 10 glasses.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. How many bottles of wine did she bring over?
She brought
He
a
is the
big
one that
jug
wanted-
of. She bought a big jug of St. Carlos wine, and the whole jug was finished.
Okay. You drank a lot that evening.
No, we didn't. We drank 2 or 3, and as the police report says, I was very calm.
You
telling
gotta
them
be
the whole
calm to lie.
situation. No, you're doing a lot of lying.
What kind of work do you do, Miss Hurst?
I don't. Customer service cashiering.
She worked for the devil.
Mr. Burton, you don't want to lose this case. So far, you're not losing. You want to lose?
No, ma'am.
Then you have to not speak to her again. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, do you get any sort of social security?
I don't get any of that, no.
Are you currently under the care of a psychiatrist?
No.
Do you currently take any medication?
No.
Okay. Mr. Burton, the police indicated that they found the cell phone that you had thrown out of your house.
Yes.
And they found it, and it was, in fact, broken. Is that the cell phone?
Yes, it is.
Can I see it, please?
Sure. And here's the receipt that I just purchased with it, too.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if that that cell phone in pieces like that. How did I star 67 her number and made a phone call and she picked it up?
Mr. Burton,
If it's that broken.
Mr. Burton, listen to me, sir. Clearly, I mean, if I were to recap this evening, you both were probably feeling pretty fine because you'd both had a little bit to drink. She may have had a worse reaction to the alcohol than you. I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't think that you injured her because she refused any medical treatment, and the police really don't indicate that there were any injuries other than a little scratch under her nose that I don't know how she got, because according to her, you just pushed her. But you do acknowledge, Mr. Burton, that you took her cell phone
And threw it.
and threw it. And the police, in their report, indicate that they found the cell phone in pieces. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Okay, so you have to pay for the cell phone. The cell phone was $180.
But what I'm saying, I don't understand. How can I make a call her on that cell phone if it's in pieces like that? She done broke it the rest of the way.
Can I ask you a question, Mr.
Yes,
Burton?
ask me a question.
Do I look like a telephone technician to you? How do I...
I don't know.
How the heck do I know how you made a phone call to her? The police said the cell phone was
Okay.
broken. You have to pay for the new cell phone. You don't have to pay $5,000, which is what she's looking for.
Okay.
But $180 is what she paid for the phone. $180 is what you're going to pay her. Judgment for the plaintiff, $180. Don't drink if you can't hold your liquor, Miss Hurst.
No,
That's all.
I wasn't
That's
drunk.
it.
Why is that
Bye-bye.
excused? You may step out.
Ever drink. Crazy lady.
He's the one on Prozac. He's the one he's the only one who has disability. I don't.
She's a total liar. She's on psych meds, and she knows she is. She get SSI, and she's crazy.
Maybe the Prozac turned him that way. I don't know.
Every time she drinks, she has obnoxious lies and steals out of my house.
All he did in the long run is just take advantage and made a spectacle out of himself, really, not for me.
If any mental hospital know this young lady, please come and get her, because she's on the loose.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Jones versus Everhart. Step forward, please.
23-year-old factory worker Antoinette Jones is suing her ex-boyfriend's current girlfriend, homemaker LaTwana Everhart, for torching her car. LaTwana says it wasn't her.
This is the boyfriend.
Yeah,
Your current boyfriend. How many children do you have with him?
2,
How old are they?
5, and 1.
And how many years were you together?
Since I was in the 11th grade, that was 97.
And you had one child with him?
Yes.
And then he was such a good father, you went and had another one with him.
I guess so, yes.
Do you? Nah. Even you had a laugh when I said that, right?
Yes.
Does he have a job?
Not at this, well, at this moment, yes, he should have one.
What is his regular occupation?
Construction.
So he works on and off.
Yes.
And how much does he give you every week for the support of your 2 children?
Nothing.
A big, fat
Zero.
Miss Eberhard.
Yes.
How long has Sir Lancelot been your boyfriend?
Well, it's be 2 years. We've been off and on since '96.
Off and on, so that you were off and on together. But didn't know about it, I assume.
That's correct.
Did you know he had 2 children when you were on and off with him?
I knew about one.
I just wanted to get a little background because I read your case, and your case says that the defendant torched your car and destroyed it. She says she didn't do it. When was your car torched?
On May 18th,
And what makes you think that the defendant did it?
because we had confrontation between each other the same night.
What kind of confrontation?
We went to a formal friend party. I don't understand why he invited both of us.
Why, this other friend invited both of you?
Yeah.
But because he's stupid.
So I didn't know she was coming. I guess she didn't know I was coming. Till I goes into the bathroom. She decided she gonna come too into the bathroom. So I told the friend, if she does come.
So you had a confrontation at this. So there's a little pushing and shoving, according to what I read.
No, we had no words. We just bumped shoulders.
Bump shoulder.
Right.
Fine. And that's what makes you think that she torched your car.
No, she had a little liquor, little friends, and a
Do you
little
have any,
courage.
let me put it to you this way, Miss Jones. Do you have any proof that she torched your car?
Only Jason's mother notarized statement. That's all I do have.
I don't read statements.
I know, but she had to stay home. It has details telling that Tawana smelled like gasoline.
Smelling from gasoline is some evidence, but even smelling from gasoline doesn't prove that you torched your car.
I mean, we had confrontation before then. We face to face, almost fist fighting. So she didn't like me from the get-go. So it was an easy alibi for her to
You don't
come.
want me to start on you, do you? You don't want me to start on you, do you? You know how he cheated on her and he's got 2 children with her?
Yeah.
Do you work?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I work in dry cleaners.
You work 5 days a week?
Yes.
Why do you have to think about that? If I said to somebody, do you work 5 days a week, they wouldn't have to think about it. Do you work 5 days a week?
5 days a week.
Okay. You work 9 to 5?
10 to 6.
And you live with Sir Lancelot,
Yes.
who is employed on and off in construction. Is that right?
Yes.
I guarantee you that when you're working from 10 to 6, he's fooling around. Guaranteed! And just like he made a fool out of her, he's going to make a fool out of you. And in a year or 2 or 3, you're going to be standing in a similar situation that she's standing in now. I don't know whether you torched her car or not. She doesn't have any proof that you torched her car. But I'm telling this to the 2 of you. The only thing that makes you look more foolish than devoting the best years of your life to a loser who doesn't pay child support, who cheats on you, who doesn't work regularly, is to be angry at each other. What are you angry at each other for? It's stupid. It's stupid. He's the bad guy. You're just, both of you are just dumb. Hang around him. Don't you understand that a man who fathers 2 children who he doesn't support is a loser?
But he does
Loser.
support his children.
Loser. Really? How
Tell
much
her
did
when
he
the
send?
last time he seen his kids.
I don't care when he saw them.
Last
not-
time he took care of
Shh.
them.
When was the last time he sent them money?
He doesn't send them money, but he buys them things. He doesn't send money to her.
Let me
No.
just a second. Just a second. That's what he's supposed to do. Send money to the custodian of his children so that she can pay rent, food, insurance, medical care, shoes. Do you understand? That's what he's supposed to do. He's not supposed to buy Pampers and soy milk and say, I support my children. That's bull. Do you understand? Listen, Miss Jones, you don't have the case because you don't have any proof that you torched your car. So I have to dismiss your case. But forget about being mad at each other. That's the one.
I'm not mad at her.
Good, perfect.
Mad at
Happy
him.
to hear.
Not mad at
Happy to
her.
hear that you're all happy with each other.
Yeah, this is case number 300 on the calendar in the matter of Kamerman versus Beck. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, folks. Have seats.
Mr. Cameraman, it is your claim that the defendants, both father and son, had you falsely arrested. You want to be reimbursed for that false arrest, bail money, attorney's fees, pain and suffering, aggravation, etc., etc.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Beck and Master Beck say that they absolutely were within their rights to have you arrested because you did, in fact, put your hands on one of them and threaten the other. So that's what this case is about. How do you know each other?
I didn't know them prior to this. The way that we came in contact with each other is I was driving my car and going to my house to pick up some tools to do some work on some of my rental properties. And Master Beck was parked blocking the right-of-way.
How was he blocking the right?
He was parked in an alleyway. We live in Newport Beach, which is a very small beach community that has an alleyway to get to the homes.
Okay, so you have to drive through a common alleyway in order to get to all of the homes.
That's true.
Okay. What were you doing there, Stephen?
I was loading my surfboards on top. My car was still on, so I wasn't fully parked. But
Well, the car was stopped, wasn't it?
yeah, I was out standing on my tire. Oh,
When I want a whole story, I'll ask you.
Okay.
Other than that, if you can answer me, just the questions, 1 or 2 words will be enough. So the car was, in fact, stopped because you were loading something onto the car.
yes.
So what happened?
First of all, I didn't observe any surfboards. I had motioned to him to move.
Me move and pull out of the driveway.
Yeah, just to get out of the way so I could get to where
Well,
I was
in order
going.
to pull out of the way, he had to go through the alleyway someplace else.
Yes, just pull in front of actually the home that he was in front of at the alleyway. He could have pulled into the street, and there was an area to park that he could have been fine there, or pull back where he wanted to. This is common.
Just a second.
Okay, sorry.
So you could have loaded your surfboards by pulling into where your house was.
Yes.
Okay. So he didn't move.
That's correct.
And what did you do?
I motioned to him to move. He acknowledged I was there and then walked around like, tough luck, I'm going to do as I please. So I thought, okay, I'll get out of the car and approach him. Maybe he'll realize that he needs to move.
I'm bigger than he is.
Yeah, a little bit. So I went up to him. I thought that would do it. That didn't do it. And so I said things like, do you need help to put the key in the ignition so you can turn the car on and move the car? And then his girlfriend started screaming at me.
The other girlfriend? What was she saying?
She was just screaming, leave him alone. You can't do, just unintelligible things.
Well, what were you doing to him, Mr. Cameraman?
I was actually doing nothing except saying, do you need somebody to show you how to? I was being
Mr. Cameraman,
facetious.
When I ask you to tell me what happened, it's not going to be one of, and then I said, and then he said, and then I said, and then he said, because I don't believe that. Do you understand?
I can understand that, yes, Your Honor.
So, let's backtrack a little bit. You got out of the car after Stephen over here was dissing you.
Yes.
Showing off to his girlfriend.
Exactly.
Because he's a kid.
Yes.
Certainly not doing the right thing, Stephen. When someone pulled up behind you in the car, the right thing to do was to have gotten in the car with your girlfriend and move the car out of the way so that that person could drive through the driveway. Do you understand?
Okay. Yeah, I say one thing.
Yeah.
I motioned him just 1 minute, just like you did, 1 minute, so I could buckle it, so I can move it. It takes 30 seconds, and it's no big deal.
Stephen, this whole thing didn't start because of 30 seconds, Stephen. If you live until you're 100, you're not going to be as smart as I am. It's just the way that God crafted you. There's a certain common sense to life. I understand it. I can't do certain things, but there's a certain common sense that I have. I'm not saying that he did the right thing, Mr. Cummins, because he's still going to give me, and then I said, and then he said. But I'm telling you that you did the wrong thing. Now, Mr. Cameraman, let's get back to and then I said. Go ahead.
I was yelling at him and trying to get him to move the car, and I was actually shocked to even know that anybody else was in the car, and then I heard her screaming, leave him alone, and then I realized since she was escalating everything, I decided I'm going to leave this alone and go back to my car. I went back to my car, turned the engine off, locked it, and proceeded to my house. As I got halfway across the street, Mr. Stephen Beck then decided to get into his vehicle and then move his vehicle to the spot that I said that he could move to that would work. So I realized he had done that. Then I went immediately back to my car and moved my car and put it in a legal parking spot near my house. At that point, I figured everything was over. I was loading things into my car. I made comments, they made comments about things. I yelled and said...
You mean that you were yelling at each other?
We were yelling at each other. Across the street, the girlfriend started saying, come on, hit us. We can have you thrown in jail. Come on, hit us. My mom's a lawyer. I can have you thrown in jail. And I said, well, yeah, I know that. I'm not going to touch anybody.
No, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so that was a lie as well. I went back into my house, came back out, and they had called the police. And Stephen had made up a wild story that I had choked him and smashed him against the car.
Okay. So, and that's why you were arrested. You have a copy of the complaint?
Yes.
May I see it, please?
Yes.
Oh, bird, there. You know that pesky fly that comes in here every once in a while? It's back. Will you sit down, Tony, for a second? Come up here. What's your name?
My name? Michelle Sabaris.
Michelle. Okay, Michelle. What did you see?
I saw this gentleman, or Stephen was putting his surfboards on top. He was standing on his tire, buckling his boards. Brett came around through the alley, drove in, parked right behind, and honked his horn. And Stephen did gesture at him 1 second, and then right away, I see him because I'm looking back out of the back. I'm in the passenger seat. He starts getting furious in his car. As what I saw a gesture of the finger. Then he gets out of the car immediately, comes right up to Stephen, and their size is different, and I see he comes up to him viciously and goes like this.
Doesn't hit him.
Doesn't hit him, not right then. Next thing I know, I see Stephen against the back, the side of the door, the back door, and Brett had his hands on his neck. And then he opened the door, tried pushing him in the car, was trying to get him so he could move his car. And then from there on...
And you're sitting in the passenger seat all this time?
Yes, and I'm in the passenger seat, and when I see him put his hands on his neck, that's when I start yelling, yes. And I got scared, and he wasn't a minor, but what I yelled, because I thought he was going to beat him up, I yelled, "Get your hands off him, he's a minor."
You mean if he was older, it would have been okay?
Well, no, but their size is considerable, and
He's always going to be that size, right?
Right.
Probably.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't believe you, because that's my job, because I've been doing this job for a very long time, because you're his mother, and I don't believe you. Do you understand?
No.
Well, I'm sorry, I explained it as best as I can. Mull it over for a while, maybe you'll get it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brett Kammerman says he was falsely arrested when Stephen Beck accused him of assault. Stephen says that during an argument, Brett choked him.
Anybody else witness this? Who are you?
I'm Patty Kammerman. I'm Brett's mother.
Where were you when this happened?
I was waiting across the street for Brett to come and pick up tools. And I never saw Brett touch him, push him, or
Well, what
do
did you
any of those
see?
things. I saw just what Brett had said, that he talked to him and he yelled at him, and everybody was very loud and yelling. And Brett went like this and got back in his car, turned the car off, came across the street.
And when you saw all of that, when you saw all of that yelling and all of that gesturing, did you stay in your house?
No, I wasn't in the house.
You just waited?
I was outside.
Did
waiting.
you come across the street to where they were?
No, I was.
Why not?
Because I didn't know what was going on. And I was just standing there.
Well, you're his mother. Maybe he was going to be in trouble. Maybe somebody's going to take him.
I knew he wouldn't. No,
what?
I knew that there was no problem. This happens dozens of times during the summer, where somebody blocks the driveway, somebody else yells, everybody moves out of the way, and it's over with.
Have a seat, Ms. Cameron.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Your Honor, she was inside the house at the time. She was not outside. I made sure of that because I looked for witnesses to witness it. I wanted witnesses.
Okay, your mother saw nothing. I don't believe her. I don't believe her. Okay, so then the police came and you were arrested. Even she knows she's not telling me the truth. Then the police came and you were arrested?
Yes.
Now, what happened with Tony Beck? Stand up, Mr. Beck. Go ahead. By the way, if there are no other witnesses, what are all you people doing here?
They're my character witnesses.
I don't need the character witnesses. I've determined you're a character. Go ahead.
After I was bailed out of jail, I went to Becky and Donnie's house.
Who's Becky and Donnie?
Becky and Donnie are neighbors of mine.
Raise Becky and Donnie. And Becky and Donnie here?
My grandchildren.
Your grandchildren?
My brother-in-law and sister-in-law.
Okay.
And I talked with them, and they have bad blood on this side of the family. And they said, you know, if you would, please leave us out of it. We don't want to have to come to court. We already don't get along with them. And the dad, it's a situation where they didn't want to be involved, and so I didn't involve them.
You went down to talk to them. After you talked to them, what happened with Tony?
While I was talking to Becky, some man came running through the house and confronted me and said, "Keep your hands off my son." And I said, you know, you really should get your facts straight. Your son's lying to people about this. I didn't do anything, and I don't even know why I was taken to jail.
Okay. So nothing, according to you, nothing happened with Tony?
Exactly.
Okay.
But then Tony filed a temporary restraining order against me,
Well,
lying to the authorities, saying that I had threatened him.
Not lying.
Now, why don't you tell me your version,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Beck, of the events?
I came through the house and I was off because the confrontation he had with my son. And the words I used when I came up to him is I said, "Why are you manhandling my son?" And he asked, who are you? And Becky says, "He's the father of Stephen." He said, "Get out of here. I don't like you. Get out of here." So and Becky asked me to leave. I left. As I was leaving, as far as his taunting, when I was leaving, just his character, he says, "What's your name?" I says, "Don knows my name." And he says, "Oh, don't even know your own name?" And this is the same type of antics that he used with the other kids in the neighborhood as far as taunting them.
Mr. Beck.
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you file an application for a restraining order against him?
The restraining order was
what
filed.
I'm asking you, sir.
The restraining order was filed due to a phone call that he made to my father-in-law. He said he had the intentions.
Just a second. Did you make a phone call to his father-in-law?
His father-in-law and I were very good friends. We both are real estate investors. We'd been friends for a long time. I wanted to call him and let him know that whatever stories are going around weren't...
Just a second. Do you have an affidavit from your relative?
Yes, ma'am. This is the report that my relative went down to the police
I'd like to see what the affidavit says from your relative, because that formed the basis of your application for a protective order. Well, I'd like to see it. This is the statement that is attributed to you, that the victim, whoever your relative is, came to the police front desk to report an annoying phone call he had received. The victim states that on this 20th of July, 2002, his grandson was battered by the suspect cameraman. The victim states that on the same day at approximately 16:30 hours, he received a call from Mr. Cameraman who said, "This is Brett. I know you know I am a martial arts expert. And just to let you know, I intend to sue the Beck family for false arrest. I want to assure you that to your grandchildren, I represent no harm or threat." That is the conversation that is attributed to you.
It's partially true.
Just a minute, what do you want?
I wanted to tell you that I was listening to the phone call.
I don't believe a word you say.
Why not?
Because I don't believe a word you say. I don't believe that you either went out and saw what was happening from outside your house, madam, or that you heard this conversation. I don't believe you. Because that's my job. Because I've been doing this job for a very long time. Because you're his mother, and I don't believe you. I don't believe that he is telling me exactly what happened with this young man. I believe that this gentleman so far had no cause to file for a restraining order against him. No cause. He had no cause. Well, that's clear. But I don't believe your version of the events with Stephen. And therefore, I don't believe you saw what you say you saw. Do you understand?
No.
Well, I'm sorry. I explained it as best as I can. Mull it over for a while. Maybe you'll get it. My question to you, Mr. Cameraman, is what happened during this case when it was in court?
The situation that occurred is I was starting a new corporation.
Don't give me your whole story, Mr. Cameraman. I don't want to hear a whole story about you didn't want this whole thing to drag on.
That's the story. That's what I was going to tell you. If that's not something...
Listen, how come I read your mind?
Well, it was a donation that I made to... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I've been here a long time, sir. I've been doing this job for a long time. What happened with the case, Mr. Cameraman?
I was told it takes a while for this to go, that there are going to be 4 or 5 pretrial hearings.
And? Keep going.
And I told my attorney that I was tired of this, that it didn't happen, that they are lying, and it's not fair that I have to deal with this for so long. Can you get it taken care of more quickly?
Mm-hmm.
And so
and
they
your
said...
attorney said to you, I can take care of it more quickly. This is what you're going to have to do.
If you make a donation to the Emergency Victims Fund, then they will let it go, because we have to give something to the DA so he feels like he won. And so at that time, I listened to the attorney and made the donation.
That was a mistake,
It was a mistake.
Because
and at the time, I asked
a $1,000 donation, whatever it is, whether it's in the form of restitution, whether it's in the form of, listen, I'm not going to be able to successfully meet these charges and I just want the whole thing over, whether it's in the form of, I'm too busy to continue with this, someone who feels as if they have been wrongly arrested, forced to post bail, handcuffed, et cetera, does not make a donation of $1,000 to make the charges go away, which is what you did. So you have no case.
Well, I agree with you on that. That's
you have
why
no case. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. So what do you want me to do? You made a mistake.
Okay, well, at the time, I had never been in a criminal situation. I listened to the criminal attorney. I will call him.
What do you want? What do you want me to do, Mr. Cameraman?
I'm telling you what the situation is, and what I'm asking you to do is that
you're an intelligent man, Mr. Cameraman.
Thank you.
You are an intelligent man. An intelligent man knows that when you pay money into the criminal justice system, it is almost a signal, at least it is some indication that you feel as if you are in some way wrong. That's the way it's interpreted, Mr.
I can understand your interpretation.
That's the way it's interpreted,
However, that's
sir.
not the case. And that's why I brought character witnesses.
I'm not interested in your character witnesses, sir, and I don't believe your mother. I believe that you overreacted to this young man, and I do believe that you put your hands on him. I don't believe that you hit him.
You believe that I put my hands on him?
Yes, I don't believe that you hit him. I don't believe that you hurt him. I believe that you lost your temper when he didn't move that car fast enough, and I think he was showing off for his girlfriend.
He was.
And I think that what he was doing was rude and inconsiderate, and he's 19 years old, and you're a lot older, and you should have cooled it, let it pass.
That's what
I did. And you didn't.
I did.
And you didn't. He, of course, had no right to bring you to court for the restraining order because you had no grounds for a restraining order, Tony Beck. You behaved badly, sir. You can't act like a brat. When you act like a brat, things happen. Sometimes you're going to meet up with people who are bigger and stronger, and you can't anticipate what their mental state is going to be, so you have to be respectful of other people's time. You have to be respectful of other people's property. You want to load your car, you don't pull your car unless you absolutely have to in a place that inhibits somebody else from getting by. That's just being respectful. That doesn't give him license to overreact to you, because he could have done exactly what he did 5 minutes later, which is to pull his car into another spot, leave it, and go across the street to get his tools, or at least that's what he was trying to do, to go across the street to get his other tools. Anyway, you have no case, Mr. Cameron. You paid $1,000. $1,000 is some indication of guilt. Goodbye.
Yeah, this is case number 199 on the calendar in the matter of Calderon versus Eagles. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, gentlemen. Have seats.
Ms. Calderon, it is your claim that the defendant had your son falsely arrested.
Yes.
And you want all kinds of damages. Ms. Eagles says in her response that your son is a bad influence on her boy. She didn't want him in her home. He violated a direction by the police to stay out of her home. She had an absolute right to have him arrested for trespass because he was told to stay out of her home. That's your defense.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes. Which
boys are they?
My son Matthew.
Matthew. Step up. And which is your boy?
Devin.
Devin. I'm going to start with you, Miss Eagles.
Okay.
What's wrong with him?
Well, I do not like some of the things that Matthew does.
How do you know about these things?
Because my son has been hanging out with him for quite some time, and I...
Well, tell me about how long they've been hanging out together, and how do you know it's Matthew that's the cause of the trouble?
Well, they've been hanging around each other for, I'm going to say approximately 4 years, 5 years.
Okay.
And I know that whenever Devin was around him, he would just turn into something that I could not control. He would be obnoxious to me.
You mean your son?
Yes. I knew that Matthew was involved with drugs, and I'm trying to keep my son from being involved in such garbage, and that's why I know.
How did you know that Matthew was involved with drugs?
Well, I know on one occasion, Kevin told me that Matthew had drugs.
Who's Kevin?
Kevin is right here.
Kevin, do you have a last name?
Blair.
Kevin, how do you know these people?
Devin's my friend. That's his mom, and that's Matt and his mom.
Well, I know who the players are.
Yeah.
I asked you how you knew them. Devin is your friend. What about Matthew?
Was my friend.
Did you ever tell Mrs. Eagles that Matthew was using drugs?
Yeah.
When did you tell her that?
I'm not exactly sure when. It was a while ago.
Give me a year. Was it this year?
Yeah, I think it was this year.
I want you to try yes.
Yes.
What kind of drugs did you tell Mrs. Eagles that Matthew was involved with?
Cocaine.
And how did you know that?
Because I've seen him with it before.
Look at me. Because you've seen him with it when?
Previous to that.
Did he sell it?
No, I just seen him with it.
Tell me about the time that you saw him with it. Look at me.
All right. We were...
You don't like my Jack Nicholson? Go ahead.
I don't know. I've seen him with it. I'm not exactly sure when.
Do you use drugs regularly?
No.
Do you use cocaine regularly?
No.
Do you ever use cocaine?
No.
Did you ever try cocaine?
No.
So it was really an unusual occurrence when you saw Matthew with cocaine, right?
Yes.
Then I want you to tell me when it was. Tell me the circumstances, because after you saw him with the cocaine one time, you told Mrs. Eagles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, think. I want you to put on your thinking cap. Think. Oh, we may have to wait a while.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure when I remember seeing him have it.
I didn't ask you when. I asked you to tell me the story about it. Were you in school? Were you at home? Were you in the street? Were you at a party?
Oh, we were at a party.
Who was at the party?
Matt, me, Devin, a whole bunch of other people.
Fine. And tell me exactly what you saw Matthew do with the cocaine.
I seen him.
Look.
I seen him pull it out and play
How
with
was it packaged?
in a little bag.
He pulled it out of where? His pocket?
Yeah.
And what did he do with it?
He just looked at it. It was never, he didn't like pull it out of the bag or anything.
Did he say anything?
He was like, I got some Coke.
You didn't see him do anything with it?
No.
And then he put it back in his pocket?
Hmm.
And didn't use it during the course of the party?
Well, not that I remember seeing.
Now, when did you tell that to Mrs. Eagles?
I don't know, maybe a month or two.
Mrs. Eagles, tell me what he said to you when he told you about the cocaine.
He told me that he knew for a fact that Matt and another individual had it and that they had given Devin some.
Well, he didn't tell that to me just now.
Well,
he didn't tell that to me just now.
He said that he knew that they did the cocaine New Year's Eve.
It's not what he's saying now.
Well,
sit down. What grade are you in school, Devin?
9th.
Ever been suspended from school?
Yes.
How many times?
Twice.
For what?
Smoking and...
Smoking cigarettes?
Yeah.
In school?
On school grounds.
Close enough. How old are you?
15.
How old were you when you got suspended for smoking?
15.
So it was a recent suspension.
Last year.
So once for smoking last year. And then, what did you get?
Fighting.
Fighting. When did you get suspended for fighting? You don't worry, I'm going to get to you in a minute.
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Or last year.
I had, like, in-school suspension because of fighting last year.
And the year before that?
No.
Have you been suspended from school, either an in-school or an out-of-school suspension, more than twice?
I don't think so.
You know what?
I don't think so.
He doesn't think so. Have you ever been arrested?
No.
Did you pass any or all of your subjects last year?
Yes.
How many did you pass?
4.
And how many did you have?
About 8.
So you passed about 50% of your classes last year, is that right?
Yep.
What are you doing this summer?
Well, I can't go to summer school.
Why?
Because I skip school too much. I have to repeat the grade.
So you have an attendance problem?
Yeah. Yes.
When you don't go to school, where do you go?
Stayed home.
Does your mother work?
Yes.
What kind of work does she do?
She's a medical transcriptionist.
You have brothers and sisters?
One brother.
How old is your brother?
18.
Does he live in the home or out of the home? In the home. What does he do?
Nothing.
So your mother has 2 children, she works full-time, and she's got 2 children who do nothing except make trouble. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Sure. You stay home from school, you do nothing. You get suspended from school, you do nothing. You pass half of your classes. You got an 18-year-old brother who does nothing.
Well, then, yes.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
On December 31st, I came home from work and I found him in my apartment.
Is that right?
No.
You mean she's lying about finding you in her home?
Yeah.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rieta Calderon says her son was falsely arrested when Sharon Eagles filed a complaint. Sharon says the boy was trespassing on her property.
Now turning over to this side of the table. How old are you, Matthew?
16.
Your last report card that you got, how many classes did you have?
5.
How many did you pass?
4.
What did you fail?
Math.
Were you in regular attendance in school last year?
Yes.
Ever been arrested?
Yes.
When?
When I was 15.
For what?
Someone had left a stolen bike at my house.
You were arrested because somebody else did something wrong.
Yeah, the case was dismissed, though, because they found...
That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but you're telling me if somebody else did something wrong, they arrested you.
Yes.
And that was your only arrest.
Yes.
Now, this business about cocaine. Have you ever tried cocaine?
No, I have not.
Have you ever touched cocaine?
No, I have not.
Mrs. Eagles doesn't like you. You know that?
Yes.
And I assume you've known that for a long time.
Yes, Sharon.
Did she ever tell you not to come to her house?
Yes, she has.
Before you were arrested, she told you not to come to her house.
Yes.
And she told you not to come to her house before you were arrested. Is that right?
Yes, Sharon.
Did you go to her house again?
No, I didn't.
You mean after she told you not to come to her house, you were not in her house again?
Correct.
When did she tell you not to come to her house?
Maybe about a month before I was arrested.
Give me the month.
Early December.
So far, is that correct?
I told him numerous times starting in September, maybe 2 years ago.
All right. But you knew he came to your house, and he came to your house invited by your son.
I did not know that he was going to my home.
Well, he didn't break into your house, madam. He came invited by your son, who was playing hooky from school.
I told him to stay away, and whether Devin let him in, I was at work, I had no way of knowing. But he was not allowed to go to my home at all.
When did you finally call the police?
I went over to the Juvenile Bureau on several occasions.
When did you finally call the police?
Then I finally called them in, I think it was November.
When was he arrested?
He was arrested in January.
Why in January?
Because on December 31st, I came home from work and I found him in my apartment.
Is that right?
No. No.
You mean she's lying about finding you in her home?
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor.
Devin, was Matthew in your home on December 31st?
Yes, he was. My mom came home early from work and caught me, Matt, and Kevin in there. We were at my house.
Is that right?
Before we were going to...
She says you were there. Her son says you were there. And your old friend Kevin, although he didn't even have to think about it for a minute, says that you were there. And that's why you were arrested for trespass. Because that's your claim. Your claim is that Mrs. Eagles had your son falsely arrested for trespass, and you want to be compensated.
Yes, Your Honor.
She told him to stay out of her home. He went to her home.
Well, he wasn't at her home the day that she said that.
Well, I don't believe that. I don't believe that he wasn't there December 31st. I have 3 people who say that he was there.
Your Honor, I showed up in court 3 appearances with witnesses and documentation at the courtroom. If she had my son arrested for those charges, she should have showed up at the courtroom. She never did.
Showed up is not
But
the
I had
issue.
witnesses
We are not
to prove my son was not at her home.
I'll hear your witnesses.
I don't have them all with me. I have Michael with me. He did pick my son up at 5 o'clock. I was home from work that day at 3 o'clock. Michael picked my son up from our home at 5 o'clock that evening.
When did you see him at your home?
It was probably about 3:45 or 4, because I distinctly remember I was sick that day and I went home early. They don't expect me home until after 6 or...
So you cannot account for where he was at 4 o'clock. Is
He
that
was
right?
home with me, Your Honor.
I don't believe that.
That is the truth.
I don't believe it. Listen, this is the problem, Miss Calderon. I believe that your son was told that he was not welcome in her home. If he was told that, and he acknowledges he was told that, he acknowledges that he was told that in early December, which means that any time after early December, he knew that the welcome mat was closed. This is not Devin's home. Devin merely lives there because his mother lets him live there. She owns the space there. Your son was there. I do not believe he wasn't there.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Sure.
Mrs. Eagle's not telling the truth right now, but on many occasions, we've known them for 4 years. My son and her son met in middle school. On many occasions, Mrs. Eagle would tell my son not to come to her house, or that she did not want the children hanging out together. Mrs. Eagles would then deliberately bring her son to my house, drop him off for days at a time.
Listen to me. That's okay. You have just acknowledged that she told your son not to come to her house.
Yes.
She could bring him to your house. You could say, I don't want him in my house. But once the owner of the premises says you are no longer welcome in my private residence, that's it. If you go there, you are trespassing. That's what she had him arrested for. But I have to tell you something. Just pay careful attention to me.
Yes.
It takes 2 to tango.
I understand that.
Okay. So that he's not the bad influence. Together, they're not good for each other.
I guess that's a better way of putting it.
Right. Now, as a parent, you say, listen, I got 2 bad kids. They're worse when they're married. So if I separate them, maybe I have a better chance of working with mine. So you have the right as a parent to say, I want to keep them separated. That's why I started with you. I don't want you to think that I believe that he is a bad influence on him. This one doesn't know whether he's a foot or horseback. He told you one story, he told me a different story, okay? But you are entitled to say, in my home, I don't want to see your face. And if you've done it and you've been unsuccessful, then you go to the police and you have him arrested. Period, end of discussion, case over, goodbye.
Eyes are excused. You may step out.
I'm extremely upset that they could just go in there and stand in front of Judge Judy and lie.
I didn't tell the truth, and they won by not telling the truth.
And say that he was not there.
She has lots of issues with her own children.
And snag his fishing pole. Ricky says James was fishing on a private lake, and he had been warned not to trespass.
Order, all rise. Now, this is case number 129 on the calendar in the matter of Cowherd versus Smith. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Smith, you have a home on a lake.
Yes, I do.
Where is it located?
Indianapolis, Indiana.
How many homes are on the lake?
About 35 now. It's going to be 38.
Is it a full-time residence?
Right, right.
And you believe that this is a private lake?
I believe I got court statements filed by the court and by a builder.
That it's a private lake?
Definitely.
Mr. Cowherd, according to your complaint, you knew for a long time that this was a private lake, but then you found out that the lake was no longer a private lake.
Right.
And you like to go fishing.
I do.
So you took your boat and went fishing.
No, I was fishing from the bank.
How do you get down to the bank of this lake?
Well, the area that's belongs to the park department, you can walk through it and come around the bank and fish.
So there's a park property.
Right.
And when did you start fishing on this lake?
Probably in April.
And you never fished there before because it was private?
Right.
What made you think you were allowed to fish there now?
Well, I had a newsletter that come around in my neighborhood, Devon Neighborhood Association, and when they send the letter out to me, I read it, and so I went fishing.
Okay, can I see the letter, please? So you're fishing off the bank. Were you by yourself?
I had a friend of mine who was fishing with me.
And what happened, sir?
Okay, we'd been over there fishing 2 or 3 times, and every time we'd go fishing, the sheriff would come and run us away. So I explained to the sheriff that we had a right to fish there because the property had been deeded over to the park department by Mr. Davis, the man that built the home. But they wouldn't listen to what we had to say. They'd go on and make us leave and said, no, we couldn't fish there. So after that, we went back again. And so Mr. Smith here, he came over in his boat. We was fishing there, and I had my lines out in the water. Well, he came and cursed us all out and told us, get off from over there. If he ever catches over there again, he'd come through the woods, take a 2x4, knock us in the head, knock us in the water, all the things that he would do to us. And he went on for about a half an hour, 45 minutes long, there on the bank. Meantime, before he started doing all that, he took his boat and went around and around in the water and pulled our poles in the water. So we lost our poles, so we couldn't fish any longer.
You mean because his boat was going around and around and caught the lines?
Right.
The boat caught the lines.
Right. So I told him, I said, well, you don't pull the poles in the water. He said, damn them poles. You ain't got no business over here, and I don't want to catch you over here again. If I do, I'm going to hurt you. I will hurt you. Said, the rest of the homeowners, they've been calling the sheriff on you, but you evidently you haven't heard of me before. They call me Bad Ricky. Don't you know who I am? I ain't heard no Bad Ricky. Well, I'll tell you, I'm the baddest. I'm the baddest thing in Indianapolis. I said, well, so I don't know no Bad Ricky. So he went on and on. So then when he left with the boat, well, we left. So I called the sheriff after he done threatened to knock us in the head with a 2x4, that he'd call his partners in on us, that he'd get some dogs and run us out from over there. I wanted to report it because, you know, in case something happened, and they said, well, why did all this go on and you didn't report the thing to some authority?
How old was the gentleman that you were fishing with?
He was about 47.
And how old are you, sir?
62.
How old are you?
45. I'm old enough to read.
Let me ask you this question. This whole lake, how long a lake is it, by the way?
33 acres.
So it's a pretty big lake.
Right, right.
There's no other house where he's fishing. He's not standing in somebody's backyard.
No, but he's standing right in front of a sign that said, he was standing right in front of the sign right there that said, no soliciting, private lake, no fishing, no swimming, no boating, and no skating.
Mr. Smith, listen to what I said to you.
Yes.
I had a question. Give me an answer. He's standing at an area where there is no house.
Right.
So he's not in somebody's backyard.
Right.
Okay. What's the big deal?
This is all private now. Wait, man, Judge.
No. What I'm asking you is, what's the big deal?
Well, the big deal is first, me and my wife, we have worked hard our life, saved to buy this fabulous home on the lake, private drive, private residence. Nobody wants to be bothered with nobody. Okay, back on the backside, there's a walking trail, which was deeded to the like I said, to the Parks Department, but just to walk, not to be the fish, the lake. We have to pay to have the lake sprayed, and something happened to him. We got to pay for that because we insure all that land around there.
Just a minute. Let me read first what this newsletter says.
Excuse me, Judge. Can I say something, Judge? Anybody can go to Kinko's and make up something, mail it out to people.
No, he didn't go to Kinko's to make this up, sir. May not be correct.
Yeah, right.
Listen to me. It may not be correct,
Right,
but he didn't go and write this up himself. So let me read what it says. Okay. Did you ever see this, sir?
No.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to read you.
I know what it says, ma'am.
Well, I'm going to say.
Definitely don't have nothing to do with Mallard Lake.
No, listen to me. Is the name of your lake Mallard Lake?
Yes, it is.
Okay. This says, and it deals with Mallard Lake, the original agreement permitting a private park for the homeowners in the development is no longer in effect. The property has been deeded to the city, and the public has every right to be there.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know, anybody know who's going to spend all this money to build a nice house on the lake? And you got to do with somebody like this come over, sit down there with a pole fishing.
Bert.
Bert, do what you got to do, Bert.
He says one more word. He goes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. James Cowherd says he was fishing in a public area when Ricky Smith assaulted him and snatched his fishing pole. Ricky claims it was a private lake and James shouldn't be there.
Now, let me ask you this question, Mr. Cowherd. You were told, and I'm not excusing what happened here, you were told by the sheriff to leave how many times?
About 3 times.
And despite the fact that you were told by the sheriff to leave 3 times, you continued to come back. That wasn't a smart thing to do.
Well, okay, when I came back, it was another letter that it came out. This was the second copy that came out. So that's when I went back again.
Let me see.
Kinko's again.
Mr. Smith, you're
I'm
being
sorry,
ridiculous,
Judge,
sir.
but, you know what I mean.
You're being ridiculous, sir.
But I got letters, stuff here.
I'm going to read your letter, sir. So this is from the Devon Neighborhood Association, which clearly again says that it had been agreed by all parties that bank fishing would be permitted from non-residential areas of the lake. Fishing from a boat would be prohibited. Even if this agreement had not been reached, bank fishing is permitted since the park site has been deeded to the city. So he had some reason to believe, based upon the newsletter from his neighborhood association, that he had every right to be in this area. Now I'm going to see your evidence, sir.
There you go. There's everything. File stamp copies from the court, stuff from the builder. We highlighted a lot of stuff for you, Judge.
Look, do you have anything after 1995, sir?
Well, see, those we do, ma'am. We do.
Just show me.
It's right there.
Can I come up as a witness?
Find it.
So,
Who are you?
I'm his wife, but then I'm the treasurer of the Mallard Lake Homeowners Association. The letter that you have right there from Davis is to his homeowners association in response to the newsletter. Our homeowner association has been going around and around with theirs, indicating that we do have a private lake. It is for use of residents only, and we don't want anybody else using that for liability reasons, etc., and privacy issues. And then that letter that you're looking at was sent to their homeowners association in response to those 2 newsletters saying the information that they printed is incorrect.
Well, this isn't from an official. This is from a builder.
Ma'am, we build these homes on private lakes. But nobody go spend all this money to build on a private lake.
But they do make the issue
It is, ma'am.
that
If you look at the file stamp copies, it's showing you before we build our home,
the
all
Parks
those things was
Department
given to us on 1995. That's why it's 1995. File stamp by our court stating that the lake is private. There is a walking trail back here, but nobody else can use the lake. It's filed in there by our courts right there.
And if you look at the plans and covenants from 95, what it shows is the homeowners association owns, and they call them lake easements, the lake and the homeowners. And then they separately deeded that part in the back that's listed as park property. The park owns up to the lake easement. After the lake easement, then that becomes Mallard Lake.
What to me is sad is that you acknowledge that there is part of the property surrounding the lake that is public property, that is a park.
Just a strip in the back.
This is a strip of land.
Whatever it is, it's a strip of land.
Right,
Is
right.
it bigger than that desk?
Right, but it's not for fishing.
Just a second. Is it bigger than this desk?
Well, it's a strip of land going way around
It's a
now.
strip of land,
Right.
a walking trail that goes around.
Right.
And your position is that it does not extend to the shore of the lake.
It does not. It stays right in there.
Just a second. It doesn't extend to the lake. That's your position.
Yes, ma'am.
Quite frankly, I have no current document in front of me, either from Mr. Davis or from this. Just because Mr. Davis writes a letter, is Mr. Davis a city councilman? Pay attention!
Well, Judge,
pay attention!
Does it make a difference because he got a letter from King Coles?
Pay attention!
You gonna take his letter from some place that we live there, ma'am?
I want to tell you something. You got a hot temper.
No, I don't, whatever.
No, let me tell you
Just
something.
get
You
this
got a
over with.
hot temper, which suggests to me that his version of what happened with his fishing poles is exactly what happened. Because
Whatever.
I was about to say to you, neither one of your documents is a legal document.
I don't have a hot temper, Judge.
Sir, because you don't know how to be
Well,
quiet.
that don't make no difference, Judge. I'm
Because
not
you
wrong.
don't know how to be
Well,
quiet.
Judge, can I ask you a question? Don't
No,
you ever
I
have-
don't answer questions,
Well,
sir.
forget it
I
then.
ask
Well, forget it.
questions.
It's over then. Forget it.
I ask questions.
Well, ma'am, nobody spends all this money to live on a lake and to be bothered with this, ma'am. I'm just trying to explain my case to you. You got stuff filed by our courts, by Indiana courts up here, ma'am. You're not even reading them.
For the development.
You know, you're going to tell me, forget it. Don't worry about it. It's over. Don't worry about it. That's all right. I mean, you know what I mean? You know, anybody know who's going to spend all this money to build a nice house on the lake? And you got people, somebody like this come over, sitting out there with a pole fishing. Okay, don't worry about it. I may be wrong.
Let me tell you, let me tell you why it doesn't make any difference.
Because you don't care, Judge. Here's your pictures here, too. Bert, do what you got to do, Bert.
One more word, he goes. One more word, he goes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I did not want to accept the money. I didn't want to complicate the relationship.
So you didn't want to accept the money.
Right.
And she overpowered you.
closed captioning sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. James Cowherd says he was fishing in a public area when Ricky Smith assaulted him and snatched his fishing pole. Ricky claims it was a private lake and James shouldn't be there.
What Mr. Smith fails to understand is he may be right and he may be wrong. He has no right to disturb your property. His recourse, if you are trespassing on the property, is to call the local authorities and have you removed.
We did, ma'am.
Well, you did, and it didn't work, so you decided to do what you did
I
yourself.
did not, ma'am. I just happened to be pulling down the lake on my big, long, 20-foot boat, and then I didn't see no fishing poles in the water. How I got a 20 big old long boat? I'm sitting way in the
Coward,
back. I'm gonna see some poles
you
in the
have
water.
bills for the
ma'am.
fishing
I'm just
poles?
sorry. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm gonna see some poles in the water. I'm down a 20-foot boat. Did you see my sign? Y'all can look at my pictures.
I don't care about your pictures.
That's what I thought.
Bottom line is, you decided that since you weren't
I
getting
did not.
satisfaction from the sheriff's department, you were going to take care of it yourself.
I called the sheriff.
$227.70 for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You know,
Out the back door to your right.
People walk out, they have a lights on the house, you know, lake on the, you know what I mean? What do you do? Bums come and fish on your property. Y'all see that, don't you? I live on a lake, man. I got something. He's a bum. He's a bum. He shouldn't be over there. If you want to fish for food, let him go buy food. It's a private lake, sir. If you live on a private lake, you won't want anybody over there.
I just wanted to have a day in the court with Mr. Rick. Yeah, I'm going to fish there again, even if I have to call the sheriff and they have to go with me.
And now the next case.
Parties on Foyardini versus Plummer. Step forward, please.
Nurse Karen Fogliandini says former boyfriend and aspiring opera singer Steve Plummer owes her for a $2,500 loan. Steve says it was not a loan. It was money in exchange for staying at his place.
You were dating each other for a while?
That's correct.
Correct. You lent him $2,500 to fix his car?
Correct.
He didn't pay you back?
Correct.
And Mr. Plummer, I read your answer, sir. And you acknowledge the fact that she gave you $2,500? Let me, because I found this sort of curious. Said she offered me the money, and you said that we would work it out later, paying her back.
I didn't say that. She did.
She did.
Yeah, that's correct.
And you took the money under those conditions, that you would work out later paying her back, correct?
I didn't say that.
Whether you said it or not. She said, here's the money, and we'll work out a payment plan later.
Well, we'll work something out later. It wasn't a payment plan, but it was to work out
just a
something
second.
later.
What did you think she meant when she said, we'll work it out later?
Well, I don't know. You could...
Order.
Just a minute. What did you think she meant, sir?
I felt it was a gift.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Wrong.
No.
If somebody says, here's the money you asked me for, and we'll work it out later, and you accept the money, she's made it clear to you that she expects that money back.
And he had mentioned on numerous occasions that he had every intention of paying it back.
But then he had second thoughts. In your answer, you say, in thinking back, I feel the money was given to me in lieu of having a place for her to come to in the marina. Why don't you tell me about that?
She bought a home in Oxnard at the time we met. I couldn't come to see her in Oxnard if I didn't have a vehicle that was running. When the fact came that I said, you know, my car is not running, it's not working, well, let me give you the money.
Let me lend you the money.
Just a second. Just a second.
No.
Let me give you the money.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
I did not want to accept the money. I didn't want to complicate the relationship. So I decided, I thought about it, and I turned her down at one time. I said, no, I don't want to accept the money. She insisted on taking...
So you're how old are you?
40.
So you didn't want to accept the money.
Right.
And she overpowered you.
Well, I don't look at it as overpowering.
Well,
there are many reasons why people
If you didn't want to
give...
accept the money because you didn't want to complicate the relationship, something must have happened, Mr. Plummer.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Go ahead.
Okay. She needed a place to come back to in the marina in the Los Angeles area. She was on call in the medical business. She needed also to come back several days a week and be there in the morning. And I felt for her to drive all the way back. This came up later in the whole scenario. Rather than drive all the way back to Oxnard, she needed a place to come back. And she had mentioned to me on the phone even, well, look, maybe we can work out that $2,500. I'll give you such and such amount of money per month if I can stay in your place so I don't have to drive all the way back to Oxnard.
Does that conversation sound familiar to you?
It's been a little convoluted. The fact was, we did discuss this, but we were not together at that point. He did not have a place for me to stay because he was not living there by himself. So in the meantime, we did actually split up. We were no longer seeing each other after May. He continued to say that he would pay me back.
Now, just a second. When did you lend him the money?
February the 10th. I have the check here.
Okay. And when did you have this conversation with him about perhaps using his apartment when you were coming into town, into the marina area?
Once his apartment would have become available. He was expecting after May or so to have no roommate.
Okay, so it was possibly in the future that you said that you would be amenable to working off this $2,500 by using his apartments a couple of days a week.
Correct.
But that never came to pass.
That never came to pass.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Most of it.
Good.
You know,
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
It was given to me as a gift, and I accepted it as a gift.
Why do you think I'd give you $2,500? Because I'm so rich?
Manager Jay Torres for abuse and keeping her things when he kicked her out. Jay says his teenage daughter is out of control.
Order. All rise. Let's have quiet, please. Your Honor, this is case number 159 on the calendar in the matter of Torres versus Torres. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Torres, this is your father.
Yes.
And you are suing him because you claim that when you left home, he kept some of your belongings.
Yes.
He says that when you left home, you took all of your belongings. Whatever you didn't want, you threw away. Is that right, sir?
That's correct, Your Honor.
I read both of your complaints, your complaint and your answer. There were certain things that were a little troublesome to me, so let me ask you. It appears that the trouble between you and your father started when you were 12 years old, according to you?
That's when most of it started, yes.
How old are you now?
I'm 18.
Say the problem started when he first lied to you about the fact that your mother was dead.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a sister?
Yes.
A younger sister?
Yes.
How old is she?
I think she's 12 years old now.
What do you mean you think?
I haven't really had any contact with her for a while, so I don't know for sure.
And you always lived with your father?
Up until I was 12, yeah.
What happened when you were 12?
I started going to various group homes because of the problems we were having at home.
What makes you think that your father lied to you when he told you that your mother was dead?
Because I talked to a CPS worker in Arizona, and he said he would start looking for her. So he looked for her in Georgia, looked for a death certificate,
Yeah.
see if there was a death certificate. He didn't find anything there. So he searched all over the U.S. He found no records of any death certificate on my mother.
And that makes you think that he lied to you? Did your father tell you the circumstances surrounding your mother's death?
He told me different stories about how she died.
Was that your first wife, sir?
Yes, Your Honor, it was.
And how long were you married?
Elizabeth and I were together for 10 and a half, almost 11 years.
And how did she die?
She died in an automobile accident in Decatur, Georgia, Your Honor. That's the only story I've ever told Lisa and Mandy both over all these years. And
Was she alone at the time of the accident?
Yes, Your Honor, she was. I had been contacted by one of Liz's friends when the accident occurred. At that time, Lisa's younger sister was with her mother, and I had to fly down there to get her. And I also attended the funeral, so she's dead, Your Honor. She's gone.
At age 12, you started to go to various group homes. At what point did you leave the house permanently?
That would be when I was 17. That would be May of '97.
Had you gone through all of your things at the house?
No, I didn't have a chance to.
Why?
Because I left too quickly to really go through my things. I just pulled a few things out, put them in a bag, and left.
Where did you go?
I just took a bus into Chandler. It's a town a few miles away from where we were at.
And what did you do? You were 17.
I spent the night out on the street near this movie theater, and then the security guard, he said I could stay with him for a little while. So I stayed with him at his apartment.
How long did you stay with the security guard?
About 3-4 days.
And then where did you go?
After that, there was this boy that I met in the apartment complex where the security guard was. He convinced me to call the police, so I did.
And then where did you go to live? You called the police came to get you?
The police came and picked me up, and I stayed at the station for a few hours, and then I went to another shelter.
An adult shelter or a children's shelter?
It was a children's shelter.
And how long did you stay at the shelter?
I think about a month.
And from there, where did you go?
I went to a different group home after that.
How long were you there?
I guess 7 or 8 months. Then there was another shelter I went to after that, and from there, I went out on my own.
Why did you leave the shelter, the group home, to go to another place after 7 months?
Because they decided that they wanted me to become more independent before I turned 18, and the one that I was in was too restrictive. So they put me in another one that pretty much lets you do whatever you think you need to do.
So what did you do, Ms. Torres?
I tried to get a job, but I couldn't hold down a job because I guess the ones I went for were a little too boring for me. So when I turned 18, there was another shelter I went to after that, and then from there I went to the one I'm in now.
So now you're living in a shelter?
Yeah.
Are you working?
No, I'm going to start schooling for a job on the 20th of next month.
What items do you believe that your father still has of yours?
There's a lot of collector's items. He's took some of my horror novels. He's got several pieces of jewelry. One of them, a ring and a necklace set, came from my first stepmother. Another one came from my first stepmother's my first stepmother's father. He's got my radio that my grandpa from New York sent me. He's got a piano keyboard that he bought me for getting good grades on one of my report cards. He's got sentimental items from my first mother. He's got my yearbook. He's got my spelling bee trophies, and he's got my bedroom set.
Well, let's deal with the big item first, the bedroom set.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get this bedroom set?
He bought it for me.
Mr. Torres.
Your Honor.
You've heard the list of items that your daughter says that she would like back.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any of those things?
No, Your Honor, I do not. And if I may, I'd like to go ahead and first express my disappointment and my shock at being here to begin with something of this nature. The problems that Lisa and I have had actually started pretty intensely when she was about 14 years old. There were episodes of running away. There were some problems she had with the law and with school. And eventually got to the point where I had to go ahead and put her into a group home myself because the problems had become so severe, become very destructive, both of myself and my younger daughter. As time went by, we went to family therapy. We went to additional counseling sessions. I mean, we had people all over the town, literally, struggling and working hard to try to turn things around for Lisa Marie. And it just didn't work. And it finally got down to the point when she was 17, where the episode that she's bringing up in question now, she was in the process of being released from the group home she was at. There were several questions and several concerns exhibited by many of the people that were involved with the case about her returning home at that point. Nonetheless, the effort was made to replace her back in my home. She was there for about 4 days. She went through a lot of stuff in that time.
And you mean personal things?
Yes, Your Honor.
Personal belonging. You say she
personal
went through a lot of
belongings,
stuff.
clothing, the whole 9 yards, everything. When she left, it was at on the evening of the 4th day, and then we didn't hear anything else for about 2-3 weeks before the police department finally contacted me, and then I instructed them, after the state had already told me that when she was located, to have her remanded over to them as well.
Have her remanded to them?
Yes, Your Honor. At that point, Lisa was awarded of court, and after this last episode, it had gotten so bad with the problems that she'd been having, with the type of medication she was taking at that point not working. I sat down with the state workers, and they said there wasn't anything else that I could be expected to do. There was nothing else really that they could do. And at that point, I was advised to go ahead and give over my parental rights to the state and allow the state of Arizona to take over Lisa's case. And that pretty much broke my heart.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'd like to point out, though, that for the past 4 to 5 years, I did not give up, even after a lot of people had already told me you've gone as far as you could.
You can't go as far as you can as a parent, Mr. Torres.
Yes, I understand that,
You
Your
go
Honor,
as
but-
far as you can as a parent when one of you is 6 foot underground.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lisa Torres wants her father, Jay Torres, to return her belongings. She claims he was abusive to her. He says she's a troubled teenager.
Is your younger daughter still living with you?
No, Your Honor, she's currently in a group home now because of other circumstances that arose partially as a result of this.
How long
that
has
I've
your
had.
younger daughter not been living with you, sir?
Since August of last year, and we're looking forward to her coming back in the next month or two.
Is it possible that your younger daughter has any of these things?
No, Your Honor, she does not. That I can say for certain.
Well, you know, I mean, she's talking about bits of jewelry. I doubt whether it's really expensive jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
But is it possible that when your daughter left, she might have overlooked these pieces that she didn't take with her and your younger daughter took them?
All the things that were left in the bedroom after she had gone, I went through, and there were clothes that were very dirty, that were not usable or not wearable. There were some things that she had already outgrown. And as far as the other items that she's indicated, the keyboard, for example, was always something that she shared with her younger sister. And when she left, she told Amanda that she could have the keyboard. As far as everything else, Your Honor, there isn't anything else. I mean, she was essentially really taken out of the home 4 years ago. And in all that time, I did hang on to a lot of her stuff. And when she came back and she looked through everything, she threw out a lot of stuff. And then when I finally moved from there, what little bit was left was put in the trash as well. And there was nothing there of any value, Your Honor. There was certainly no necklace. There was certainly no trophies or anything else of anything left at that point.
Is it possible that they were discarded, these trophies and other things, when you moved? So you moved from the residence?
Yes, Your Honor. And I went through everything myself, and they were not there, Your Honor.
Ms. Torres, it doesn't appear to me that your father is withholding these things from you. He says he just doesn't have them. Did you tell your younger sister that she could have the keyboard?
No, Your Honor. I got that from my father as a sort of a reward for getting grades on my report card, and I told my sister I would share it with her. I didn't say she could own it.
That you would share?
That was originally my item, yes.
Do you know where that is right now?
Yes, Your Honor, I do know where that is
Where
exactly.
Is it?
It's being kept in storage along with a couple of other items that I have in there. It's
Like
in
what?
a 5x5. Some old computer books.
What about her horror novels?
This is the first time I've heard of horror novels. The only books she ever read were things like Star Trek. That was it.
But you do have certain things in storage, Mr. Torres, is that right?
That's correct, but the only item that she's indicated on that list, the only one that I can say for sure is there is that keyboard.
I want you to see to it that she gets it.
Yes, Your Honor.
And what about this bedroom furniture?
The bedroom furniture, I do not have. That's been gone for some time. When Lisa had run away the last time, and I had spoken with her CPS caseworker, I asked him, what should I do about the bedroom set? And he said he would talk to Lisa. And then about a month later, he called me and said Lisa said I could just go ahead and get rid of it, so I donated it to the Salvation Army so somebody else could have it.
You say no.
Your Honor, I never got any phone call from any CPS worker or anything. I never got a phone call.
This was 4 years ago, Ms. Torres, is that right?
No, the last time I was at home was in May of last year.
That would have been March of last year, Your Honor.
No.
Well, in May of last year, was your bedroom furniture there?
It was there when I left, yes.
This is very, very sad. Mr. Torres.
Your Honor.
You have to acknowledge, sir, that when you have two children, and both of them are out of your house, that there might be some fault with you.
Yes, Your Honor, and that has been addressed quite extensively. There have been several parenting classes, therapy sessions, and quite a bit of help.
Well,
and the people involved on Amanda's case are all on my side now.
That's your younger daughter?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, evidently that came about kind of late with regard to this child.
Well, in regards to Lisa, Your Honor, I had attended several weekly therapy sessions with her, both at the family group homes that she was at and the hospitals that she stayed in as well. So I gave it every effort that I possibly could.
Since you left home, Lisa, have you been hospitalized?
No, Your Honor, not since the last time.
Which was when?
Which was May of last year. I had been in a mental hospital for about a month before then because I was dealing with manic depression.
Are you taking medication now, Lisa?
Yes, I am.
What kind of medication do you take?
I forgot the exact name of it. It's some anxiety depressing medication.
But you take it regularly?
Yes.
You sound like a really intelligent gal.
Thank you.
Did you graduate from high school?
No, Your Honor, I went for my GED.
But you got your GED?
Yes.
Probably was easy for you. You going to go on to school?
Yes, Your Honor.
What do you want to do?
I'm going to become a computer animator.
You good with computers?
I'm going to be. I'm pretty good with them now, though.
You think that would be any purpose in you trying to go for some conjoint therapy with your dad?
No.
You're not ready for that?
No.
What about with your little sister?
I would be willing to do that.
If I can address that, Your Honor, there's been some concern about that with the current caseworkers that are doing work with Amanda. I've already told Mandy back at the beginning I have no objection to her seeing her sister or dealing with her or doing whatever she'd like. That is her relationship, and she needs to keep that intact if that's what she wants to do, and I would not intervene. Also, despite everything that's gone on, I still love my daughter very much, and I really do hope that she goes forward and she can make things work, because that's all I've ever wanted for her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I mean, you have to understand, Mr. Torres, that your daughter has a mentally diagnosed illness for which she was hospitalized, over which she has absolutely no control. I'm sure that she wishes she didn't have that problem, but she does.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Lisa Torres is suing her father, Jay, for abusive behavior. He says she is out of control.
I'm listening to what you're saying, Mr. Torres, and I'm going to make some suggestions to you. First of all, as far as this court case is concerned, I'm going to direct that your daughter make sure that before you leave today, she gives you her address, and this keyboard that you have, you return to her.
Very well, Your
Understood? I also think that probably your daughter, who was 18 years old, that's really still a child. Most of us still know, Lisa, that 18, although you're doing a lot on your own, you lived in a lot of shelters, which probably was very unpleasant, 18 is still very young. And she could probably, Mr. Torres, benefit, at least for the time being, with some financial support from you. That would be gratuitous financial support. That would mean just because she's out there and she's struggling to do it on her own at age 18, she could probably make $25 a week go a long way. I'm just throwing that out to you because I think that if you say, I love my daughter very much and I want her to succeed, that may be helpful for her, a little bit of financial support.
I've never had a problem with that, Your Honor.
Okay.
The only thing that I ask is just for a simple thank you from time to time, that's all.
You may not get it right away. I mean, you have to understand, Mr. Torres, that your daughter acknowledges that she has a mentally diagnosed illness for which she was hospitalized, over which she has absolutely no control. I'm sure that she wishes she didn't have that problem, but she does.
Yes.
So having that problem over which she has no control, I mean, it's just like having, you know, a physiological illness. And if she had a physiological illness, you would want to help her.
Right.
This is something that can affect personality. It can affect the way you view the world. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Right, Lisa?
I'd like to point out, though, that for the past 4 to 5 years, I've continued working at that, and I did not give up, even after a lot of people had already told me you've gone as far as you could.
You can't go as far as you can as a parent, Mr. Torres.
Yes, I understand that,
You
Your
go
Honor,
as
but
far as you can as a parent when one of you is 6 foot underground.
That's exactly right,
That's
Your Honor.
right. That's when you
exactly
say,
right.
I've had enough as a parent. You don't say, well, this is too tough. I've done my best. You know, it's been 4 tough years, and I can't do any more.
Right.
So even if you don't get a thank you.
Well, I've never given up, Your Honor.
Okay, so what I'm saying to you is, you say you've never given up and you want the best for your daughter.
That's correct.
Then you don't wait for a thank you. You say, I want her to do well, and if this will ease her life a little bit for now, I want to see to it that I do that for her. And maybe in time, if you do that, maybe things will get better.
I hope so, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
All right, Mr. Torres, so you're going to see to it that your daughter gets a keyboard, which is going to make her feel better.
Yes, Your Honor.
I would like you to, if you can from me, sir, I would like you to look through some of those other boxes and see if there's anything that's on her list. Would you give him that list, Ms. Torres, please? Just give it over to him. Just take a look through the things, and if there is anything else that you find other than that, the keyboard, make sure you send it off to her.
I'll do that,
And
Your
if you want to be a smart man and include it in that box with the keyboard, be a money order for her. Don't send a check, because I don't know if she has a checking account. Right? So send it in a money order.
I can do that, Your Honor.
And I know spare cash isn't always easy, but it sounds to me as if she's trying at this point. So help her along. Unconditional love is what you have for a child.
Yes, Your Honor.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, so excuse, you may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She's right, unconditional love is pretty much the answer for a parent for any child that's having problems, as we've had in the past. And if she's willing to accept it, I'd still be willing to do what I could for her now.
But I think right now he doesn't really know anything about unconditional love, and he needs to learn. Sometime in the future, I am willing to start a new relationship with him.
Year-old nursing assistant Melissa Soares says her ex-best friend, 20-year-old Nainita McNichols, beat her up and owes her for a phone bill. Nainita claims Melissa is a gossip.
Order, all rise. Your Honor, this is case number 179 on the calendar in the matter of Soares versus McNichols, sorry.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have seats, please.
Ms. Soares, I gather that who are you?
Her mother.
You can have a seat. I gather that before the defendant came to live with you, she was a friend of yours.
Best friend.
How long had you been best friends?
Since our freshman year.
In high school?
Yes.
And there came a time when you got married. You married someone who was in the military.
Yes, I did.
And they went aboard ship. They were in the Navy. Your husband's in the Navy?
Yes, he is.
So you decided to come home?
Yes.
And you moved in with the plaintiff?
Yes, I did.
Something happened, didn't go well, you left. You claim that she owes you a phone bill.
Yes, she does.
And in addition to the phone bill, you say that you also want $1,000 for emotional distress.
Yes, I do.
Let's start with the phone bill. She moved in.
Yes.
Wasn't paying any rent.
No, I told her it was okay for her not to pay rent because she was my best friend. I missed her. So I said, you can come and stay with me for free. It's okay. Just come and stay here. So she came to stay with me. And when she did come to stay with me, she stood there till about May or June. Then she decided she wanted to move for a little argument that we had, but we were still friends. So she decided she wanted to move in with her mother. Now, I still have this phone bill, which the phone hadn't gotten shut off yet, which I wasn't worried about because she had told me she would be giving me money. And at this time, I still had I really trusted her because she was such a close friend of mine. So when it came down to the phone time to get shut off, she came by and I was in the West End of the New Bedford area. She says, come now if you want to come. So I go to the car, and when I get near the car,
She drove to your house?
She drove to my cousin's house. I was not home. And when I went near the car and I said, Mahogany, come with me. And when Mahogany went to come with me, I looked and they had took off, her and her mother. They took off really fast. And now I'm like, what's going on? Still not thinking anything because she's still my friend. Then I have somebody bring me to her mother's house. When I get to her mother's house, the mother says, hold on, really polite, I'm going to go get Nenita. Nenita comes, everything's fine. I get up the stairs in their apartment. When I get to the top of the stairs, the mother's behind me. She now pushes me into the apartment, and the daughter's standing there when I get in. And she says to me, why did you tell on me for? And I'm like, what's going on? What did I tell about? I have no idea what she's talking about. Somehow there was a rumor or some misunderstanding with her in-laws. So happened that she had an affair, and she was afraid that I was going to bring this out, which I had no intentions of doing. So now, her and her mother, they literally jumped me. She takes off her belt, and she's like, now, Ma? Now, Ma? The mother's like, go ahead. She takes her belt off. She hit me with her belt over here, and she kept hitting me with it. So then I then grabbed the belt, and when I tried to fight back to get out of the apartment, mind you, the door is chained and locked at this time, and the mother's standing near the door. And I'm going back and forth fighting with her, and the mother's pulling on me from every direction. Finally, someone's at the door, which is him. He's at the door, and he's like, what's going on? He came, he's her friend.
Okay.
No, he came looking for her, the mother. And then he then came and said, what's going on? I then ran down the stairs because now I get out the apartment. When I get down the stairs, the mother comes at me. I'm not satisfied. It's my turn. So she went at my neck, and he had seen that. And then after that, I came out the house, and so happens that the story got twisted around. Basically, I did not fight over the phone bill. I would like my money because this is all that I have, and so therefore...
Okay, let's start with A. You lived with her for how long?
I was there March and April 29th.
And were you calling your husband?
He was Colette calling from Florida.
So you know you owe her a lot of money for a phone bill?
Yes, I do.
Why didn't you pay her?
I paid her. I only owe her $100. The first week...
Just a second. Show me the phone bills. Let's start with that first.
The whole bill is actually $525, but I only have $325 to show for, and I would settle for that much.
$325?
Yes, that's all I have to show for.
Oh, okay. Show me your proof that you gave her $225.
She was my best friend. When she came to me with the phone bill, I went to the ATM, I took out $200, I brought it to her house. The following Friday, I brought another $100. Then I owed her, that was $300, I owed her $200. I stopped paying her $100. I left money with my mother, like $25 here, $30 there. She was picking the money up from my mother every Friday after that. Then I found out that she called my in-laws and told them I was cheating on my husband. She wrote him on the boat and told him I was cheating on him. I did drive by her.
How do you know that?
How do I know? Because I spoke to my husband. And my
Did he
in-laws is the
send you
one
a
who
copy
told
of
me.
the letter?
No, he ripped it up.
What possible motive would she have to do that?
Because she thought I wasn't going to pay her the rest of her phone bill money.
Okay. Did she give you any money in cash?
No, she had never gave me any money.
Why didn't you get a receipt for this money that
Because
you
she
say
was
you
my
gave
best
her?
friend. When I moved out, it was not
Well, you
on
moved-
bad terms.
You moved out
because she had made plans with her cousin to move in for the summer. We didn't move out on bad terms.
Well, you didn't move out on good terms. There was an incident.
No, there wasn't. No, there wasn't.
You didn't have an argument with her?
No.
Did she have an argument with you?
Yes, we did have a little. We had words. When she packed her stuff, we had words, and she decided to leave.
What were the words about?
It was in regarding to the fact that her little brother was over the apartment. She was on the phone with her husband, and he was underneath my glass table scraping the thing, and I said, "Get out of there." And she didn't like the way I said it to him, and I told her I would say that to any other little kid, my own brother or sister. What makes you think I can't say to your brother? If you can't keep him tamed, I'll do it myself. This is my home. And then that's when she then said, "Well, I don't have to effing be here," quote. So then she left. And
Does that sound familiar to you?
No. I know about my little brother, but that's not why I moved out. It was planned that I was moving out when my husband went on the boat, because her friend was moving in for the summer, her cousin.
Yeah, but you moved out before the summer. So that doesn't sound familiar to you, what she just said to you?
I know we had, I mean, that happened, but that wasn't, no. I lived at her house.
Who are you?
Mahogany
makes no
Silver.
sense.
Were
Her
you
cousin.
there?
I was there.
Well, step up here.
I was there, and what she said is what happened. And
Mahogany
she
was not there.
I was there. 'Cause
No,
I
she
was
wasn't.
there.
Don't. Let me hear.
I was there when it happened, and I was there when she packed her stuff, because I even talked to her in the hallway, and she was telling me how she was mad about Melissa scolding her brother. I was there.
Why did you tell my family that I was cheating on my husband?
Listen to yourself. Listen to yourself.
Listen to myself. I'm listening.
Try listening to yourself.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Melissa Soares claims Naynita McNichols beat her and owes her for a phone bill. Naynita says Melissa bit her thumb, sending her to the hospital.
You were there when this incident occurred, and you had a conversation with her in the hallway?
In the hallway. I asked her, you know, she just like went in the room without telling anyone, you know, and started packing her things. So when she was taking, you know, moving her things into her car, I went in the hallway and asked her, you know, what was wrong with her. And she told me she was mad about Melissa scolding her brother. She didn't like the way Melissa talked to her brother.
How old is your brother?
He's 8.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Step up here. Were you present during this incident that took place in her home?
Yes.
Who are you?
My name's Orlando Urquhart. I'm a friend of the defendant and Melissa. I lived with the defendant for a year.
Tell me what you observed and when.
All right, I was going over to pick up my fish tank, and I was outside the house with Jeff walking the dog. And
who's Jeff?
Jeff's the neighbor that lived downstairs. Me and Jeff was talking outside. Next thing you know, I heard like a big ruckus upstairs and pounding on doors. And I was like, what's going on? Because the bottom door was locked, and I was ready to kick it in. And then they come down. She finally gets the door open, and she comes running out.
Describe her condition when you saw her.
Eyes watering, fear, shock.
Did you see the defendant?
No, not till they came downstairs afterwards. She was in the hallway with her mother. Her mother was down the stairs then.
Did you see anybody with a belt?
No.
Did you see any marks on any of these people?
No, I didn't see any marks. It was kind of like 7 o'clock when the sun was going down, and everything was just like a ruckus.
Okay, have a seat. Now, I want you to tell me first, did someone call her to come to your house that evening?
No, I had drove by. We was coming from the mall, and I saw her at her cousin's house. And I stopped, and I said, I have your phone bill money at my house. When are you going to come get it? Because she didn't come the past 2 weeks. And she said, why don't you leave it at my grandmother's? Why do I have to go to your house? I said, because I have work and everything. I left it at my house so you could get it. And the last thing she told me was, bring it to my grandmother's. I said, fine. Me and my mother drove off. We went home. I was next door at my cousin's house, and then she came to my house.
And what happened when she came to your house?
She went upstairs, and I asked her, why did you tell my family that I was cheating on my husband? And we started arguing because she said, I want my money and I'm going to get it
And what
any
did she
way I
say?
can.
Did she answer you?
She said she didn't, but my mother-in-law's the one who told me she did.
Just a minute. So she said, I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you say?
I said, why are you lying?
And what did she say?
We started arguing. She was swearing at me, just give me my effing money. I want my money. We started fighting.
So why didn't you just give her her money?
Because I said, after the trouble that you caused me with my family, the $100 I owe you, we're even. So she caused me trouble.
Just 1 second. You saw her earlier that day. You said, why don't you come over and get your money? You had already decided not to give her her money.
No,
because of what
I thought she was going to tell the
second.
truth.
Because based upon what you just told me, you had already decided not to give her her money because of this gossip that you thought that she was the maker of. So why did you tell her to come over to get your money?
I was going to give her her money. Yes, I was.
Well, when did you change your mind? Just a second. When did you change your mind?
Because she said, I just want my effing money. I don't care what happens to you. We started arguing. I didn't think she was going to blow up like that. She's the one that did that to me. She called my mother-in-law. She wrote my husband.
No, just a second. You're not following my question,
yes, I am.
madam.
I was going to give her the money. There was no intention of us fighting.
No. Listen to yourself. Listen to yourself.
Listen to myself. I'm listening.
Try listening to yourself. You tell her to come and pick up her money.
Yes.
She comes to your house to pick up her money. Instead of handing her her money, you say to her, why, I assume not in a calm tone, why did you create this gossip? She says to you, I didn't. You knew that she did, according to you, so you responded to her. Then you started verbally fighting, and then you started physically fighting.
Yes.
Right? My question to you is, if you told her to come to get the money, why didn't you just hand her the money? Period.
Because I want to know why she did that to me.
She said she didn't.
But she did. My mother-in-law told me. I did not think it was going to turn into a fight at my house when I asked her, why did she tell my family and my husband that I was cheating on him? And I didn't think it was going to turn into a fight.
Who hit who first?
She did.
Excuse me. She hit me first. And I'm the one who got a phone call from her sister-in-law stating, Melissa, me and you have been friends for years. Now, my brother just married this girl, and seeing she's your friend also, but y'all my friend before her. Let me know exactly what you know. I know something about her sleeping with someone else. And I said, I have no idea. I can't account for what goes on behind closed doors. And then we hung up. The next thing you know, the whole story's flipped around, and it looks like I made this story up. And even her mother-in-law's like, why would she? Her mother-in-law said that she came to her herself stating, Melissa's going to come to you with this gossip because she's mad because I ain't giving her her phone bill money. She was afraid I would do that because I didn't get my money.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
By this time, they had this fight in Anita's room. From the bed, they went to the floor. Melissa was on top and Anita holding her down like this. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Let me explain.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Melissa Soares wants her phone bill paid, plus emotional distress for assault. Nanita McNichol says Melissa told her husband about a supposed affair.
Did this lady hit you?
Yes, she hit me.
Where'd she hit you?
She grabbed me by my hair and she hit me with the belt.
No, I did not. No, I did not.
Step up here. Tell me your last name.
Long, L-O-N-G.
Miss Long, what did you have to do with this whole incident?
All right. Anita showed up at my house, tears in her eyes and her bags in her hand. And I said, she's like, I have nowhere to go. Mahogany and Melissa want to live together and go dancing together because one was a stripper and the other one wanted to go do the same thing. So they had this plan that they were going to get a car together so that they can be by themselves and do whatever they want.
Just tell me what happened on the day she came to your house.
So the day that she came to my house, well, the day that I saw her was the day I was with my daughter. We had gone to the mall. We had come down from the mall. We was coming down Kempton Street, going past Thing's house over there. And they flipped us off. They flipped her hair. And I'm like, there's Melissa. You know, 2 days before, Nanita had given me money to give to Melissa. Melissa was always at my house every Friday.
Don't digress, madam.
All right.
You passed her And you
passed
saw
her house,
and
saw her,
and you just
and
a second.
stopped,
And just a
and
second.
she
You
approached the
Hey,
car.
I'm speaking. My mouth is moving. You stopped the car. You stopped the car. And when you stopped the car, your daughter said to her, "Why don't you come and get the money?" That's what your daughter tells me that she said.
Melissa had approached the car, and Nanita says, "I left the money with my mother. How come you didn't come pick it up?" Melissa was swearing at her and all that stuff, and I'm like, let's just, she wants the money, she can come pick it up at the house later on, let everything calm down, and we'll go home. She wants to come pick it up. Went home. I was home for about 20 minutes. Doorbell rang. I went downstairs. It was Melissa and a car full of people. So I says, okay. I says, let me go get Nanita. I went and got Nanita, and I says, Melissa's here to come pick up the money. We all go in the house. I go in to talk to my ex-husband about our son. Next thing I know, I hear yelling. I come out. Melissa's raising her hands to Nanita. Nanita pushed Melissa back. Melissa then proceeded to charge into Nanita, and they ran into my couch, busted up my furniture. Nanita kicked her off the couch. They fell into the door in her bedroom, started fighting around. I'm yelling and screaming, saying, "Stop, you're going to bust my TV. You're going to break the lamp. You're going to roll into the fish tank. You're going to get glass all over yourselves." By this time, they had this fight in Nanita's room. From the bed, they went to the floor. Melissa was on top of Nanita, holding her down like this. "I'm sorry, please forgive me. Let me explain. I didn't mean to say those things. Let me up and I'll explain." And Nanita's like, "Well, what do you need to explain about?" And she's like, "Well, I'm just sorry for everything that happened or whatever, and I want my effing money and I want to go." And by this time, my house was like trash. My couch was broken. Things were all discombobulated in my house. And I opened up the door. I told Melissa, "Get out." A couple of days afterwards, my son came home, my older son, he was 17, and he says...
Don't tell me what your older son said to you.
My older son told me that...
Don't tell me what he said to you. I'm not interested in what he said to you.
Oh, you're not interested?
No.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with this case.
So they were harassing him.
Has nothing to do with this case.
And during the time that the fight happened and the time that they came and destroyed my car, they would go by the house and harass.
Madam, I don't have anything about, in this case, about your car. I don't have anything about your son. All this case is about a phone bill and what happened to her when she got to your house. You have anything
else? And I have
else?
pictures of the destruction that she did to my house.
Madam, did you file a claim? Yeah. Did you? The question is, did you file a claim?
Yes. When I talked to the woman on the phone.
Did you go to court and
No,
file
I didn't
a
go
claim?
to court.
Then you have no claim.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
I have to make a judgment about who I believe. I believe that she owes you the money. I believe that she owes you what you can prove is $325.
Yes, ma'am.
I have no proof that she gave you any money in cash. I believe that she called you to come to the house for the purpose of confronting you, which she did. I don't know why you think this is amusing. It's really not amusing.
It's not amusing.
She was really good to you.
It isn't amusing.
She was really. You want to know why, Miss McNichols?
And she told my husband I was cheating on him. I gave her $400 of her money.
And I know that she did because I saw her give her the money.
Did she ever give you any money?
The only time she came to my house was when she had a bat in her hand.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $325. That's all.
Oh, these are excuses.
No.
You may step
They
out.
didn't even say nothing about the car or nothing. No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy, her diary said she and his best friend had done him wrong.
She can flirt with whoever she wants to flirt with, right?
You can't compare 5 months of sex with 9 years of friendship.
Real people, Judge Judy.
I'm not happy.
I didn't travel all the way across country from Massachusetts to be made a fool of on television.
Taken advantage of, used, any way you want to put it, I was that.
Her mother is off the meters. That's all I have to say.
Didn't pay rent, threw a rock through her window, and attempted to rape her. Jesus says Rebecca falsely reported him to the police.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 174 on the calendar in the matter of Duran versus O'Keene. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Rand, your complaint is a little confusing. Let me see if I understand it. You rented a room to the defendant in your house.
Correct.
And at that time, the defendant was going out with your niece.
Correct.
And then he stopped going out with your niece.
Correct.
And left your house shortly thereafter.
No, he started dating my sister.
And then he stopped dating your sister, or is he still dating your sister?
He's not dating my sister no more.
Is he dating any other of your relatives?
Not that I know of.
You say when he left your house, he owed you money for rent, he owes you money for damage that he did to your property, and he assaulted you.
Yes.
And this all happened when?
Started like March the 13th, from the 14th, all the way to the 22nd.
You mean he assaulted you that whole time?
Yes, with threatened letters. There was a contempt of rape.
Contempt of rape?
There's a police report stating here. He not only this happened to me, but all this happened in front of my 3 children that have been traumatized too.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I was not going to do anything about it, but he went the wrong way about it, suing me for something I didn't do.
Now we get you. So then, after he moved out, according to your answer, sir, she kept some of your property.
Yes.
So you sued her in small claims court
Yes, I did.
and got a judgment against her for $3,500.
Yes, I did.
And it was after you got that judgment against her for $3,500 that she filed this lawsuit.
Yes, she did.
Is that time just about right, Mr. Rand?
Yes.
So let's start with the rent, which you say is about $300.
$325. Yes.
How much were you paying her each month in rent?
$300.
$300.
Yes.
And what month did you move out?
Yeah, I moved out on the 15th of March.
Had you paid for March?
Yes.
He paid you for March, correct?
No.
He didn't pay you for March?
He wasn't working.
You have proof that you paid her for March?
No, I never got any receipts from her.
How many months did you live there, sir?
Since January, 1st of January.
Did he pay you in January?
Yes, he did.
Did he pay you in February?
Yes, he did.
He says he also paid you in March.
He didn't pay me March.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Mm-hmm. So why didn't you sue him for March?
I wasn't going to go after him. I just wanted to drop all this.
Right, until after he sued you. Then you
Yes.
decided to sue him.
Yes.
Okay. So now let's go to from the rent, let's go to the furniture that you say he destroyed. Let's hear about it.
Actually, here's pictures of it.
Don't show him. I'll look at it. I don't need an explanation. I can look at pictures. Thank you very much, Bird. Thank you. Tell me what you say he did to your furniture and your... I see a little door that's chipped. Come on, let me hear.
The carpet, it's burnt. I don't know what he dropped there.
How do you know he dropped anything there?
Because before he moved in, that carpet was cleaned.
Let me ask you this question, Mr. Rand. When you told him to move out, did you tell him that you were accusing him of damaging your property? Did you say that to him?
Yes, I did.
Did she say that to you?
No, she didn't.
Of course she didn't. Mr. Rand, I have a truth detector back here. If you lie to me, you're going to look very foolish. Do you understand?
I understand.
Good. Don't lie to me. First of all, it really irritates me because it makes me think that you think that I'm stupid.
I'm not
And
saying
she
you are.
ain't stupid.
I'm not saying you are.
So, now let's get to this assault. You want to tell me, Mr. Rand, about this assault that you allege that he perpetrated on you?
Okay, when he moved out on the 14th or on the 13th, on the 14th, he didn't tell me he was leaving. I told him I'll be back later. I had locked all my CDs inside my room and my jewelry, some property, because I really didn't trust him at that time no more. Okay, when I came back, I didn't notice anything missing till the next day when I was getting, at 6:30 in the morning, when I was getting my baby ready to go to school. And I started looking for my CDs and jewelry, and I said, honey, did you take my stuff? And he says, no, I didn't. I said, well, I've been stolen. Jesse took my stuff. So, and then I got the police involved. The police went and they took a police report. They took fingerprints, and they made a police report stating all the objects that he had taken from my house.
No, they made a police report of all these objects that you say he took from your house.
And they found on him.
Okay. Let me see the police report, please.
This is where they found the stuff at.
What date did you move out, sir?
I believe it was on the 15th.
Of March?
Yes. I have documents from the courthouse, and the police department says that all those charges have been dropped, and that she recovered all her jewelry back.
I'm going to look at your papers in a minute. Your sister's name is...
Yes, correct.
You haven't talked to her for a while, right?
We just barely started talking.
She says you're a habitual liar.
Yeah. At that time, she was very upset with me.
She says you write bad checks. Huh? Did you ever write a bad check?
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
His friend started unbuckling my belt. I said, they're going to rape me. The first thing that came to my mind, I lifted up my leg and I kicked where it hurts.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rebecca Duran swears Jesus Olgin owes her for rent, a broken window, and assault by attempting to rape her. Jesus claims Rebecca is upset because he dated her sister.
Well, the police found all your property, madam.
Yeah, most of it, but it does say...
The police found all of your property, according to this, according to the police report. So if you have any problem with the property, why don't you go to the police department? They must have it vouchered.
No, it says right there that they got one of my son's bracelets and says the value of them, but it also says that they didn't find the 3 initial rings with the diamonds and 2 bracelets, which those are very, very...
Very, very valuable.
Valuable to me.
Very valuable. Where did you get them from?
They were given through their godmother, each of them. And those you cannot replace, you know. You only get baptized once, not twice.
Let me see the reports that you have. All right, Mr. O'Queen. I'm going to ask you a question. Don't make me ask it to you twice. One time. Did you ever write her a note?
No.
It's good.
It's almost like a mind reader. It's almost like Karnak. That's right. Did you ever write her a note, sir, suggesting that she drop these burglary charges that she had filed against you?
No, ma'am.
Do you know anybody who did?
No.
All right. Now let me hear about this attempted rape.
I was already scared with my 3 children. My fiance had barely left, and I told him not to be long because I was afraid to be alone with my 3 children. So I went to the back room where it used to be his room. We started reading a book, storybook, so I was getting ready to put him to bed. Actually, to bathe him and then to put him to bed. And all of a sudden, I hear the windows to my door break. And as soon as I heard that break, I got scared. I just told my kids, run into the room. Grab your brother, run into the room, and do whatever you can. Don't see nothing, just stay inside. My daughter didn't make it inside the room. My daughter was roaming all over the place while I was getting beaten up.
Getting beaten up by whom?
It was Jesus and some other guy. The other guy was covered. I can't identify to the cops who it was. If I knew who it was, I would identify him too. They started beating me up. My 3 children started crying, and I was scared because I didn't want them to see anything. While Jesus sat on my holding my hands like this, his friend started unbuckling my belt. I had Levi's on that night, okay? And as soon as I seen that they weren't gonna buckle my belt, I said, they're gonna rape me. The first thing that came to my mind, I lifted up my leg and I kicked where it hurts. And I wanna say exactly how the guy said it. The kicked me where it hurts. And they opened the door, they jumped. They didn't even run down the stairs, they jumped. I called the 911. My kids, I say, my kids are traumatized because of this, and not only my kids, but I am too, okay?
Now, just a minute. So now I'm looking at the police report. This is dated May of 1998, and it says the Oxnard Police has recommended that all charges against Mr. Jesus O'Queen be dismissed. And that was agreed to with the Deputy District Attorney. Did you have a discussion with them?
They never got in contact with me.
Your Honor.
Just a second, I'm not finished yet.
Okay.
You have a copy of this letter that you say was attached to some projectile that came through your window?
They told me that if you really needed them, that you could subpoena the pictures and the letters. That's the only way that you would be able to get them.
Well, I'm so curious as to why they dismissed all the charges against him, madam.
Because there was 3 people that claimed that he was at church at that time. You could do a lot of things in matters of seconds, and he got away with it.
So you're saying that the police didn't follow through because he had an alibi?
Yes. And they told me that the district attorney would get in contact with me, which they never did, because I really wanted to press charges on him because I didn't think what he did was right. Because he didn't only hurt me, he hurt my 3 children too. And
No,
it's a 5 and 4 and 2-year-old children. We're not talking about big kids.
Your Honor, one of the witnesses was a police officer from the Oxford Police Department.
One of the witnesses to what?
To my alibi.
Was a police officer?
Yes. And the other one was a pastor of the church, and the other one was the directors of the men's home.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Give me the name of the pastor of the church. You don't mind that I make phone calls, do
No,
you?
you can go ahead.
What I'm trying to do is to ascertain how you recall that on that particular evening he was part of your congregation.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rebecca Duran claims Jesus Olgin owes her for rent, stolen jewelry, and assault. Jesus says Rebecca falsely accused him of attempted rape.
Give me the name of the pastor of the church. Phone number, police officer's name, phone number. Get me all the information, sir, so that I can make some phone calls. You don't mind that I make phone calls, do
No,
you?
you can go ahead.
I mean, there really seems to be a lot of bad family history here. Very hard to untangle the web. But I'm going to try to speak to these 2 witnesses. Because Ms. Duran, it's possible that what you're telling me is absolutely true. It's very difficult to figure it out. But what I don't understand is why you waited until after he got a judgment against you to file this case. Okay. Thank you. You can have a seat. I'll be back. Is Pastor there, please? Sure. Is this Pastor? This is Judge Judy Scheindlin. I'm sorry to disturb you, sir, but could I have a moment of your time? I am in the process of trying a case in my court involving someone that I believe that you know. His name is Jesus O'Queen. Okay. And he has just testified before me, sir, that you served as a witness for him with regard to a police investigation sometime in March. Do you recall that? Remember what date it was? What I'm trying to do is to ascertain how you recall that on that particular evening he was part of your congregation. And how would you know he's in church? What time is your service in the evening, sir? And you saw him after the service, is that right, or before, or during? How long have you been the pastor of this church? Mm-hmm. What makes you remember this gentleman as having been there if there were 300 people in the audience and you'd never met him before? And has the police officer been a regular member of your church for a while? Mm-hmm. Okay, is there anything else that you'd like to add, sir? Well, I hope I didn't take up too much of your time, sir. Thank you very much. Right, you too. Bye-bye. It is practically an impossible case to resolve. Pastor advises me that he specifically recalls the defendant on the date that you claim that he attempted to rape you and beat you up in his church where he has been a pastor for 13 years. He specifically remembers meeting him because all new people come up and are introduced by whomever brings them that evening. He specifically remembers him being there with this police officer who was also a regular church member who had been there for a year. In all probability, madam, that is why the police decided not to pursue this. Do you understand?
Yes.
And which gives me serious cause to pause for me to pursue it any further. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Now tell me about this case that you had against her, in which you were granted a judgment for $3,500.
It was the furniture which I left inside of her house, which she did not let me recover.
Now exactly what furniture is it?
It's 2 leather couches.
2 leather couches you have?
Leather?
Yes.
Leather, pleather, it looks like leather. What?
2 glass top nightstands.
What?
2 nightstands.
2 nightstands. What else?
2 dressers.
2 dressers. You have his 2 couches?
Yes.
You have his 2 dressers?
Yes.
And you have his 2 nightstands?
The nightstands, we left them out because I'm not no storage. And the mattresses, no storage. I got to store my...
She doesn't have the nightstand, sir, and she doesn't have the mattresses. Do you understand?
Yes. I was advised by a lawyer if she didn't have all the property to take it back to the small claims court for the second judgment.
Listen, you want to go to small claims court and get a $3,500 judgment against her instead of getting your property back? That's entirely up to you. I was prepared to try to help you. You're not going to collect this judgment. You can take it, you can frame it, you can put it up on your wall and look at it over the bureaus, the dressers that you don't have.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
What's your pleasure? You want to go back to small claims court in Ventura County?
I'll pick up the furniture.
Smart idea. Tomorrow.
Yes.
Perfect. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
When a lawyer is in my courtroom, when I speak, the lawyer has to be quiet. That's one of the advantages of being the judge.
Justice with an attitude. Judge Judy.
He got away with it. You know, he got what he wanted. He left 3 children traumatized and myself traumatized. And that's the sad thing about it.
All these charges were dismissed because she lied. It'll all come back.
Calvo sold her car with parts of her husband's wheelchair inside. Alberto says it was towed away.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Sir. Try to stay awake. Judge, this is number 243 on the calendar in the matter of Calvo versus Calvo. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mrs. Calvo, this is your brother?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you and your family were the victims of an armed robbery. And because of the fear that you had staying in your home where the robbery occurred, you called your brother, and he came over, and you moved into his house, or the garage in his house. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Your suit alleges that when you moved out, you left an old car in front of your brother's house.
That's right.
In the old car were some parts to your husband's wheelchair.
Right.
And when you came back to retrieve it, it was gone. So you believe he sold it.
That's right.
What makes you think he sold it?
Well, when I went back to get the car, I called, and his son said that it was there, but then they came to the motel, and he said it was gone. It was no longer there. He said they impounded the car. But when I called the police, they said it wasn't at the city or the county, so that nobody had it.
Could it have been stolen?
It could have, but he said that it was just gone, that a tow truck took it.
After your brother offered his home to you, why do you think that he would do something like sell your car?
Well, I just want to know where the car was. I needed the car to get around because I have a crippled husband and 2 children. And when I called from the motel, my nephew said, okay, your car's here. But then when they came to the motel, they said it was gone. I don't know. I don't understand where the car is.
You mean on the same day?
Within 5 minutes.
Did you move out of your brother's home on reasonable terms?
Yes, ma'am.
You had never had any problem with your brother before?
No.
Huh. No problem with me?
Shh. Don't talk to her. Don't talk to me. Well, Miss Calvo, my problem is I don't understand what would make you think that your brother, who had been nothing but nice to you and your family, would do something like, what year car was this?
An 87.
Would sell your 11-year-old car that probably wasn't worth much, right?
Well, I had just paid, my father bought it for me. He paid $800 for it, plus a van that we traded in. Plus the wheelchair parts is what was expensive. It's a $7,500 wheelchair. I have a picture of the wheelchair that my husband...
Why didn't you leave the wheelchair parts someplace other than a car that was going to be parked outside for 5 weeks?
We had a lot of things, all our belongings we were moving.
Parts of that wheelchair were at a pawn shop. Part of it were under a beer case of beer.
Where?
In the garage.
Is it still there?
It's a very expensive wheelchair. Her husband is an invalid. He had a stroke, and he has to have a very expensive wheelchair to get around.
Well, then what were the parts to it?
That's what I want to know. How can a
assume...
person be so irresponsible, Your Honor? Forgive me for this interruption, but if the wheelchair is so expensive, why would anyone leave parts scattered here and there?
Because those parts were detachable, and we had sometimes we had to move the wheelchair. We would just move the main part, and some parts just happened to stay in the trunk.
What do you know about this car, Mr. Calvo?
What I know about a car is that according to the city ordinances, you cannot leave any vehicle parked in front of a residential street for a certain period of time, Your Honor, which is why the car is no longer there. When she appeared in Houston to retrieve her vehicle, it was not there, and it could not be there.
How do you know it could not be there?
Because it was removed. I don't know who took it.
Well, when did you first see that it was gone?
About a week, maybe a week and a half before she decided to come up unannounced.
It had been there for about a month then?
Yes, 5 weeks. At the 6th week is when she came unannounced, as I say, called my son on the telephone and said, tell your dad that I'm here to pick up the car, which is her first mistake. You don't make any kind of arrangements with minors, never. You talk to an adult. Talked to my 11-year-old son and told him, tell your dad that I'm going to go pick up the car.
He's 18.
That's besides the point. You're supposed to talk to me on things like that.
Okay.
It's a very
Whatever.
serious matter.
She spoke to one of your children.
That's right. And I've told him, do never make arrangements with an adult. You're not an adult.
She wasn't making arrangements. She said, I'm coming to pick up my car. Did you have your sister's telephone number where she was living?
Yes, Your Honor, we did.
Did you call her and let her know that her car had been moved?
No, I did not.
Why not?
It's not my responsibility, Your Honor.
So you were angry with your sister when she left?
Of course I was angry with her.
When she left?
That's right.
Why were you angry with her when she left?
Because of her behavior.
Like what?
Irresponsible behavior, reckless behavior, abandonment.
Of what?
Of her responsibilities. Many of these things would not have occurred to her had she been a person of serious character, Your Honor. But some of her choice of friends is not very good.
He's going off the track.
Oh, you say that you left under good circumstances. I'm trying to figure out why your brother...
Because he's money hungry. He always has been. He wants money. What else? Why would he sell my car? He knew I didn't have a car.
But
I did not sell the car, Your Honor.
Where is it?
It's gone. It's probably smashed into a box about the cube, about that
do
small.
you have the registration for this car?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
You have the registration for this car. So if he sold the car, he would have had to have forged some sort of a document of sale. Do you understand that, Miss Calvo?
You can sell cars without registration.
How?
People buy them all the time.
Well, did you sell it without a
No,
registration?
I didn't sell it without registration. Or with, or without. But I'm telling you that it has been done.
That's helpful. I'm sure it has been done, but it's illegal.
Of course.
How old are you, sir?
40 years old.
Have you ever been in jail?
Yes.
For what?
Traffic tickets.
How long were you in jail for traffic tickets?
Oh, about 24 hours.
Traffic tickets that you didn't pay?
That's right.
Where there were outstanding warrants?
That's right.
When did that happen?
Oh, what's last year, 97?
Prior to that?
I can't remember prior to that.
You can't remember whether you were in jail
I can't
prior?
remember the year.
But you were in jail prior to that. For what?
For the same thing.
Traffic tickets.
Traffic tickets.
What do you have against paying traffic tickets?
Nothing. When the bills mount up so high, you know, economically it becomes impossible.
When you get them, you're supposed to pay them. That way they don't pile up.
That's a very good fact.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They were not there the day that I left.
What does that have to do with
Who
anything?
could I
You
leave
didn't
the keys
entrust.
to? Throw them in the tree and just let them hang there? I mean, I had to give
Then
them
you sue the tree.
And later today,
And Mr. Connors then was taking a shower every 8 days, and the toothbrush got wet every 5 days.
Then you left.
The police took him out.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Olga Calvo claims her brother, Alberto Calvo, sold her car with parts of her husband's wheelchair inside.
Miss Calvo.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a sad but not a difficult case. You believe that your brother sold your car.
Yes.
He says he didn't sell your car. He's not responsible for your car because you left it out in the street, right?
Yes.
You didn't leave him with any of the indicia of ownership, license, registration. And in order for me to believe you a theory that he sold it, I would have to believe that he broke the law in selling the car because he sold it, and he had no right to do that because he wasn't the legal owner of the car. So in order to believe you, I have to believe that your brother committed a criminal act. Right?
But I left the car in his care.
Did she leave the keys with you?
She left that car telling my younger son, who is 16, that he can have the car.
That's a
just a second.
Blunt-faced lie.
Just a second. Did he, in fact, your 16-year-old son, take the car?
No, he cannot take the car.
Now, according to you, you did not entrust the keys to the car, if I believed you, to the defendant. You entrusted the keys to the car to his son.
The 18-year-old son.
Whatever. 16, 18.
Okay.
18 doesn't help you out a lot.
Okay.
16 might help you out a little bit, but not 18, so you left the car keys with an 18-year-old.
Yes, ma'am.
It is possible that the 18-year-old sold the car. Is that possible?
It's possible, but I doubt it.
But it's possible.
It's possible.
No,
It's
I don't
possible.
appreciate-
Shh. I'm not speaking to you.
Well, I don't appreciate.
I'm not speaking to you. Is it possible that the 18-year-old has the car?
It's possible.
Well, Miss Calvo, if all those things are possible, how can I ultimately find in your favor with regard to your lawsuit against this defendant?
Because I entrusted it to him.
No, you didn't, Miss Calvo. You entrusted it to someone else.
Well, the reason that happened was because they were not there the day that I left.
What does that have to do with
Who
anything?
could I
You
leave
didn't
the
entrust.
keys to? Throw them in the tree and just let them hang there? I mean, I had to give
Then
them
you sue the tree if you throw it in a tree. But right now, you didn't entrust the keys to Mr. Calvo. You entrusted them, according to you, to some 18-year-old, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're suing the wrong person if you have a lawsuit at all. This case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
Well, I think I should have left the keys with one of the adults, and I didn't, so there's no hard feelings.
I'm sorry that she had a traumatic experience. If you would have been there, you would have seen how much she suffered. But she must learn responsibility.
It's okay.
And now the next case.
Parties on Clift versus Connor. Step forward, please.
73-year-old Maddie Cliff is suing her ex-husband, Paul Connors, 65, for the cost of a bed and her share of a joint bank account.
Miss Cliff, the defendant is your former husband.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you marry him?
May 95.
And how long did you live together?
Not quite 2 years.
You're suing him for a bid and for part of a joint bank account.
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me about the bid.
The night we were married, came home, and it started right that night. I asked him what was wrong. He said nothing. There's 2 women at the wedding who has eyes for me. I'm tired. Good night. He left and went to bed. I slept in the bedroom for a little while, not very long. If I accidentally touched him, he kicked me. Then there came a time where he slept, got on top of the bedspread. If he was out mowing the lawn, and after a few days, it was a whole gray outline on top of the bedspread. I said, it's so much easier to do the sheets, pull the bedspread down. He wouldn't do it. And he would go across the bed so I couldn't get in. So I slept on the floor for 6 weeks with 2 bedspreads. That's all I had. We went out on our anniversary to Rhode Island for shrimp. And because we had a medley of shrimp, I thought I had food poisoning, because right after that, I couldn't move. I was hurting so bad, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I wasn't able to sleep. And finally, I couldn't stand the floor no longer. It was so painful. And Mr. Connors then was taking a shower every 8 days, and the toothbrush got wet every 5 days. He'd sit in front of the TV.
So you bought a bed for you to sleep in, is that
No, he
the-
didn't.
No, you bought a bed for you to sleep in.
I put it in the living room so I could sleep.
So you bought yourself a bed while you were married and you slept in the living room?
Yes.
Now, when you left him, he says you took this bed with you.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's get to the joint bank account. How much money did you put into this joint account?
I think at the time, I was getting $632, but then I went on his insurance, so I was getting $712.
So you're talking about your Social Security?
Yes.
So
And a
you
small
put your
pension.
Social Security into a joint account, and he put his Social Security into a joint account.
Yes.
And from that, you paid
I bought-
household bills.
I bought all my own food.
No, I'm not talking about food. I'm talking about, you lived in a mobile home? Was that purchased or was it leased?
We purchased it.
So was the mortgage payment made from this joint account?
Yes.
And you had gas and electric and telephone?
Yes.
And all that was paid for out of the joint account?
For a while, yes. Well, yes.
Then you left?
I
Or
didn't leave.
separated? You separated?
The police took him out.
Police took him out?
Yep.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're in the golden years of your life. Have a good time. Stop dwelling in the past.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Maddie Cliff is suing her ex-husband, Paul Connors, for the cost of her bed and her share of a joint bank account.
Can I please see the judgment of divorce? The most important section of this says, the personal property of the marriage has been, left out a word here, resolved to the satisfaction of the parties, but the husband shall have his paint, alternator, and other personal property of the husband. The husband shall have access to the shed to remove his personal property, so stated in paragraph 8. You signed this?
Yes. This is the list he made.
I don't care about the list he made. You signed this, and if you weren't satisfied with it, you should not have signed it. But not only did you sign it, you were represented by an attorney when you signed it. Now, Mr. Khanna.
Yes, Your Honor.
You are counterclaiming because you say that when she moved out of the house, she took a whole bunch of property.
She took all the contents of the home, including down to the curtains and the curtain rods, everything within the home she took with her. And along with that, she had threatened and put a letter and sent a letter to my immediate family that was quite detrimental to me.
What kind of letter did she send to your
It's a
family?
5-page letter, Your Honor. I have a copy of it here with me.
Can I see it, please?
Certainly, Your Honor. This was sent to all my immediate family.
All right, well, Mr. Connors, this letter really just has a whole litany of complaints against you, that you were not a terrific husband, and also not very neat.
Yes, Your Honor.
And there was no need, Ms. Cliff, for you to send this kind of letter, airing the grievances that you had with regard to your former husband to any of his family. It is not actionable. I mean, the fact that you got chocolate all over the furniture and left crumbs all over the place, and what happened in the bedroom certainly was nobody's business but the two of you. And this was a mistake. Clearly, it was a mistake. I mean, the two of you, probably very nice people who tried to have another relationship, and it just didn't work out. Put a period and get on with your lives. You know, you're in the golden years of your life. Have a good time. Stop dwelling in the past.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
I'm dismissing your complaint. I'm dismissing your counterclaim. Go out, enjoy the rest of your lives, hopefully in peace and
Your Honor,
separately from each other.
He
What?
took all the checking account. Why?
Listen to me. Your judgment of divorce provided in paragraph 8 that all issues of personal property were resolved by the parties. I do not intend to revisit that issue. The Superior Court of the State of Massachusetts ruled on that in a document that you signed and your attorney signed. If you're not happy about it, go back to your attorney. Say to your attorney, I was under duress, it was fraud, whatever it is, I want you to reopen my divorce. But I'll tell you now, Miss Clift, you don't have a snowball's chance in hell, because every other part of this judgment of divorce that I went through was complied with by him. And you're complaining about one of them, the personal property, and I'm telling you that I am not revisiting that. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
God will get him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's going to suffer.
And on the next Judge Judy.
Your wife works for your father and you do nothing.
I do help him out, but he doesn't pay me, he pays her.
All designed to avoid your child support.
No.
I think I was born yesterday.
Judge Judy Justice.
He'll get his. And I'm the third woman he's done this to. The first one died.
Judge Judy had a picture of me that she put in my mailbox that had a crossbone in my forehead and an axe in my head.
He's a chronic liar. He has a problem.
I had gone out earlier in the evening, and she physically nailed the door shut instead of just turning the little knob on the door.
He's got some real...
Mercedes and not paying for it.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 300 on the calendar in the matter of Luder versus Levy. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
According to these papers, you two had an acquaintance, co-workers or something. Is that right?
Correct.
And there came a time when you were interested in purchasing a new car. You had a 1992 Mercedes that was on a lease.
Correct.
And the defendant, according to your papers, wanted to take over the lease on your car.
That's correct.
Is that right?
That's correct. I tried to.
And she filled out all the papers to take over your lease?
Yes.
But her papers were rejected because she had bad credit.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
But she took the car anyway. You drove it.
Right.
And you had what I consider, reading through all this stuff, a private agreement that you would pay the monthly lease on the car.
Right.
Until such time as you fixed up your credit or could buy it. Is that right?
That's right.
So far correct?
Correct.
And how long did you have the car?
From October to July 10th.
And you paid the lease on the car, but according to you, the lease payments were made late.
Yes, they were.
So what did you do?
Well, if I may back up a little bit, I was not aware initially that Ms. Levy had a tax lien on her credit, which would prevent her from obtaining a lease.
But you were aware of that when you gave her the car?
No, I was not aware of that.
Give me a time frame. October is when this arrangement was made, but then you were notified at some point that you couldn't take over the lease because she had bad credit. What month was that?
On October 6th, there was an application sent by Ms. Levy to Mercedes-Benz asking to assume the lease.
Okay, when were you notified that that was denied?
Within a week or 10 days.
So then you had options at that time?
Yes, we had another option.
And what was the other option?
We went to El Dorado Bank, and I was willing to co-sign for her to purchase the car. That was also denied.
So still, you had an option.
Exactly.
Ms. Lutter. Your option was to say, I'm sorry, give me back my car. I have to find somebody who can actually take over this lease or purchase it, right?
Yes.
Of course. You opted to let her use the car as long as she would pay the lease.
On time.
On time, but it was within a relatively short window that you knew that she could not take over the lease.
Correct.
And that you were taking a risk, that these other people were not prepared to take a risk with her, right?
Correct.
You took the risk.
I took the risk.
But the payments, according to you, were made late. So then there came a time in July when you told her, when you had a conversation with her and told her to either clear it up, lease the car, buy the car, or, according to you, return it.
Exactly. I no longer trusted her, and my credit was at risk. She disappeared, and I knew from her daughter that she may be moving back east, and I didn't want to take the risk of having my car disappear across the states.
So, okay, that's reasonable, but you gave her the option.
Yes, I gave her the option.
You gave her the option. You gave her the option to either assume the lease, purchase the car, or return it to me, according to your statement.
Right.
So she returned it to you?
Eventually, yes.
Okay, she returned it on the 10th of July.
Correct.
Had she paid June?
Yes.
Okay. You're suing her for $5,000.
Correct.
For what?
I have copies of all the damages here, spelled out exactly. And initially, as I purchased my new car, I had the option at that point of trading in the Mercedes, and I would have been rid of the problem. Linda insisted on having the car. She says, I need it for real estate. It shows better than a Toyota, and it gives me a better image. And again, because she's a friend and I trusted her, I let her pursue it. So now I'm out. The lease payment for July was not made, although she initially indicated it was.
Well, the lease payment for July, she absolutely owes you. And how much is the lease payment for July?
$375.86.
Okay. What else? What were the damages on the car that were not ordinary wear and tear?
That were not ordinary wear and tear? There were none.
None?
No.
Okay. So that's July's payment you owe her. Do you understand that?
I don't believe that I should, because she did not give me any options. She said, you moved out, I don't trust you anymore, I want my car back, and that was it.
Listen, she had no longer a mechanism for getting in touch with you easily.
We worked in the same office, Your Honor.
Were you moving? Were you in the process of moving?
No. No, I moved out from her house after she lit into me about my personal life. And then I just moved. And then when she came home, I was gone, and then she called, she was mad because I left. She wanted money. She's a total gold digger. She wanted money.
Well, I don't think she's a total gold digger. I'm going to get to the rent in a second. In any event, you returned the car July 10th. So you drove it for 10 days in July, making it relatively impossible for her to get somebody else to purchase this car for July. She sort of stuck with it. So you're going to pay $375.86. That was her car payment for July. Part of your problem is, once you knew that she had bad credit, bad enough credit so that nobody would allow her to either assume the lease or to purchase the car, you should have said, I want the car back. I'm going to take care of it myself. Then you have to deal with it. Let's get to the rent. You were good enough friends when you had to move out of your home and rent it because you didn't have money. You asked if you could live with her for a month.
She told me to come and live with her, and then every month she gave me bills on phone, utilities, watering her lawn, everything. And most of the time there was like 5 people in the house. And
she allowed you to come to live in her house?
Sleep in her dog's room with 3 dogs, which was fine. I was happy to do that. I did everything I could for her to help her with her business and everything.
Listen.
And she just totally just used me. She couldn't sell the car. That's why she wanted me to take the lease over.
Listen, nobody twisted your arm to take the car, right?
Well, she did. She wanted to buy another car, Your Honor.
Oh.
And I was right there to just take over all the bills. I paid everything on the car, everything. And she knew that I couldn't get the loan.
Are you serious with me? Are you telling me that you were forced to take this car?
No.
All right. And she didn't force you, go and drag you from your house and say, you have to come and live with me? I don't care if you slept with 3 dogs, 2 parakeets, and a partridge. She gave you a place to stay when you were forced because of financial reasons to rent your house in order to survive.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was buying clothes and jewelry, obtaining a cell phone, going out for dinners.
So then you said either pay me or leave.
And later today,
you found the rollerblade that he left outside.
Yeah.
And what did you do with it?
I put it in the trash.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carla Luder says her former roommate, Linda Levy, took over the lease of her Mercedes, then couldn't pay for it. She says Linda also owes her for living with her. Linda says she wasn't renting a place from her, she was renting the Mercedes.
All right, let's hear, Ms. Luder. Did you discuss rent?
Initially, when she needed a place to stay, I offered, because she had nowhere to go. She has no family out here. Said, we're welcome to come in and stay for a month until you find adequate rental for yourself. When I came back from vacation and she had not found adequate housing, she said, you know, I'm really stuck. I don't have a place. I want to thank you for giving me a roof over my head. I appreciate everything that you're doing. And I said, well, I think it's only fair that you pay a third of the utilities. I have a tenant downstairs, a single lady who pays a third. And I asked Linda to pay a third. She agreed to that. And I said, when you have the $200, pay it to me as a rent, when you can afford it. So now she came to money because she was buying clothes and jewelry, obtaining a cell phone, going out for dinners. Then I confronted her and I said, wait a minute, if you could do all this, you can afford to pay me $200 a month. Well, next week she moved out without a word, no forwarding address, no note, no nothing.
Okay. So, Ms. Lauder,
Your Honor, I did leave a note, and I left a $200 check, and I have some of the things that I paid, receipts that I paid.
You left a $200 check for what?
Just for any phone bills for the last month or utilities that I may have owed her. Because I felt
Did
that
she leave you $200 check?
Yeah, it was a post-dated $200 check, which I applied to all of this already.
Okay. All right, let's take care of the rent part. Did you say that you would take care of the third of the utilities? I assume that you did because you were taking care of the third of the utilities. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. With regard to the rent, it seems to me like you were a nice lady. So I'm going to give you some advice. You don't say to somebody, pay me $200 rent when you can afford it. Because then what you're asking a court to do is to decide whether she can in fact afford to pay you $200. And no court in this land, if they have other things to do, are going to sit down, go over her bills, her expenses, whatever else she had, and say, well, she really could afford $200, maybe she could afford $150. Nobody's going to do that, which is why that's not the way people rent rooms or rent apartments. So this was not a contract. This was a contract for something that may or may not happen, i.e., when you can afford it. Do you understand? But I find that there was actually an agreement to pay 1/3 of the utilities. Now, how much were the utilities for the months she lived there?
What's still owing is $210.53.
And that's giving her credit for the $200 that she left you?
No, I applied that towards the rent.
No, strike rent.
Strike rent.
Yes. So she doesn't know you.
Doesn't pay to be nice, does it?
What?
I said it doesn't pay to be nice.
No, it pays if you're supposed to be nice. People are supposed to be nice, but you're also supposed to be smart.
I know. Well,
and it seems like you're a smart lady, but you can't say to somebody, pay me rent when you can afford it. There'll be some people who say, I can never afford
She kept
it.
telling me she had no money, but then she could go out and buy clothes and jewelry and a cell phone and go out for dinners all the time.
So then you got angry because you say, well, you say you can't afford to pay rent, but you can afford to do other things, therefore,
pay me.
Go either pay me or leave.
That's what I did. I didn't tell her to leave, but I asked her to
You said pay me, so she decided to leave.
Right.
You look like a very nice, smart lady. You made a mistake.
Yes.
But you can't always be compensated for mistakes. Courts don't compensate you for mistakes. It was an error in judgment. Once you were told she had bad credit, you shouldn't have given her the car. And once you saw that she was staying beyond the month, you should have said to her, you have to pay rent starting the first of the month. Do something. Anybody can pay $200 in rent, especially when you're paying $300 and some odd for a car.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
So judgment in this case is for the plaintiff, the amount of $375.86. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's such a control freak that she just had to always get in my face about my life and me, and you know, she just liked to control everybody and have them do everything for her. She just wanted to use people.
It was unfortunate that, you know, the things had to turn out between Linda and I the way they did. She was a good friend and a co-worker, and I just feel sorry for her.
And now the next case.
Parties on Henderson versus Heredia. Step forward, please.
Joseph and Gina Henderson say Leonard Heredia's 9-year-old son, Zoran, threw the Henderson sons' expensive rollerblades in the trash. They want a new pair.
You're a junior.
Yes.
What's your first name?
Derwin.
Derwin, step up here. Who is Zoran's?
Zoran, over there.
You're next to your dad. Okay. You folks are neighbors.
Yes. Yes.
You were rollerblading,
Yes.
but only on one rollerblade.
Yes.
You took off the other one and just left it, right?
Yes.
Not very responsible. And you left it outside overnight.
Yes, I did.
Why were you just rollerblading on one rollerblade?
I just thought it was fun, and I just have one rollerblade and I push with my other foot.
Now we come to you. You found the rollerblade that he left outside.
Yes.
And what did you do with it?
I put it in the trash.
Why?
I don't know.
Is this your dad?
Yes.
Says here that he's very protective of you. Is that right, sir?
Yes, I am.
I'm not going to hurt him.
Yeah, I know. I love him.
I mean, he's cute. But I'm going to find out why he put it in the trash. You don't mind that, do you?
No.
So you put it in the trash. Did you tell anybody you put it in the trash?
No.
Did you know who it belonged to?
Yes.
You not like him?
I like him.
So what'd you put his rollerblade in the trash for? Just being mischievous, naughty? Right?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your second argument is that you shouldn't pay $140 because you only threw away half the rollerblades.
Yes. Yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joseph and Gina Henderson say Leonard Heredia's 9-year-old son, Zoran, threw the Henderson sons' expensive rollerblades in the trash. They want a new pair.
Did your dad ask you whether or not you put the skate in the garbage?
Yes.
What'd you tell him?
Yes.
Perfect. So, your problem is that you say that they were old rollerblades and you don't want to pay the cost of new ones. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't expect them to go out and buy old rollerblades, do you?
No, no.
Did you buy these rollerblades new?
Yes, we did.
When?
We bought him for his last birthday. It was July
7th.
July 7th of last year.
And how much were they?
$140.
So your argument, your second argument is that you shouldn't pay $140 because you only threw away half the rollerblades.
Yes, yes. That's...
You know what I mean?
Oh, I understand.
Now, how old are you?
9.
You do any chores around the house?
Yes.
What kind of chores do you do?
Cat box, the silverware.
Cat box. You take care of the cat box?
Yeah.
That's a pretty nasty job. Seems to me maybe he's going to want to keep you on cat box duty for an extra year. You have brothers and sisters?
Brother.
How old is your brother?
8.
Well, maybe when he's 9, he'll get the cat box to take care of. I haven't asked you anything. Is there anything that you want to tell me?
Well, I do want to mention one thing. While we're here, I tried working out our problems between the 2 kids. Right now, Junior's not allowed to play with Zoran, and I think that had a lot to do with the...
Who said so?
I did.
Why?
When we first moved into the building, for the first couple of years, they played together, and you know, I thought they played like kids, and they played happily as kids. But a couple of times there was confrontations, and Junior and Zoran were out there, and Mr. Rutherfield, like, he has to come out there and, you know, handle childhood play. And a couple of times he knocked Junior down to the ground, and that's why I don't.
The father did?
Yeah, the father.
You can't do that, sir.
I understand.
You can't come to his defense all the time, sir. You've got to step back as a parent. Evidently, he's done some wrong things, right?
Yes.
This clearly was a wrong thing. And I have a feeling, based upon the statements that I read, that he's done a couple of other little things that aren't right in the complex where you live. Is that right? You know? Like, give me an example of what you've done in the complex that wasn't right.
Fight with him.
Why do you fight with him?
I don't know.
Is he a nice boy? Did he ever do anything to hurt you?
No.
Do you have any other problems in school?
No.
Just with him? Or with some other people too?
Some other kid.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Well, it's just too bad that 2 young boys who live in the same complex can't play together. And if they can't play together because you interfere, sir,
yes, ma'am,
that's a big mistake. Is this the younger brother? Get ready for cat box duty. In any event, this lawsuit is relatively easy. You paid $140 for the skates. I'm sure you have a bill for me.
Yes, I do.
Can I just see it for a moment? Always impresses me when people keep these receipts. Really. People are so organized. All right, $140.71. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Step out. I'll back up to you right now.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Boyfriend over here's got all of his jewelry in the car. I don't want to leave it on the freeway.
But leave it they did, and now blame her uncle because the car broke down. Judge Judy Justice.